Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, salutations. Welcome back to Two Cents Toys. I'm Sal. Tonight I'm joined by one of my dearest and longest running friends, Jeff Hicks of the World Class Bullshitters. We've been friends for going on. This will be our fourth year, something like that.
Yeah, dude, you've been there since essentially the beginning, and we've been always communicating. I think I talk to you more than almost anybody in my social circle outside of the guys from the show.
I am honored to be counted among that. So we've been doing toy streams now for a while, off and on, and they're always a good time. I think the first time we did an official toy stream, it was just the two of us. We talked for like 6 hours or something, something crazy. So, Tony's getting this already coming out of the gate. Clown World Review, Mr. Tony Tone Deaf says, I was told there'd be punch and pie.
It was fun to meet you, Tony, out in Las Vegas, dude. I can't wait to hang out again.
Yeah. That's Tony holds a something I haven't done yet, so not officially. But let's see, we got Bjorn Jorgensen tells me to keep an eye out for SJI imagery. Yeah, I've heard about that guy. Keith Knight's here, Andrew Sabina, B Retro Gamer, Laser Pants, Connor Fuller, which Laser Pants, aka Ryan. Great
Thanks
guy.
for that probe, dude.
Hell yeah, great guy. Me and all three of us are friends. I remember our first was that toy collector stream. What was that, post Toy Fair 2019? Maybe?
I think it was
somewhere around there. Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was post. Oh my god, it was so much fun.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, that's where I met Ryan. I met Pete. I met Jay Peerboom. I met a whole bunch of people on that stream. That was a lot of fun.
I haven't seen Jay Peerboom in a minute, but I see him on Facebook. He's doing well, so I'm happy for him.
Oh yeah, he's doing he's doing pretty good for himself.
Yeah.
So, but on the off chance that there's people in this chat that they don't know who the Jeff Hicks is, why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself?
So I am Jeff Hicks. I run the World Class Bullshitters YouTube channel. People that know us probably know us best for the toy videos or the Captain Marvel or Star Wars videos. Now, the toy videos are probably the ones I enjoyed making the most because they're on location, they're fun, they're toy related, and they're the ones that really got people paying attention. I wasn't out there looking for anything like that, but it's the content that made people notice, problems with the Star Wars brand. And I still see people out there, filming and doing stuff and keeping that rolling. I'm getting ready to go out into the field again with that stuff. So that's what I'm known for here on YouTube. I also have a comic book stealing solo, which is done and gone, but I do more stuff, in the art field as well. So that's who I am.
Hell yeah. And I remember, I'm sorry, that wasn't about what you said. It's just, I just remember the roller coaster that all was. And I have my early bird special, my little postcards still. So I have maintained everything from that campaign. And Ryan sends in the most generous super chat that this channel has seen, and I think it might be an error. He sends in $999, or I'll just call it an even 100. He says, because you've been killing it lately, and your channel is always honest and full of integrity, I'm happy that I can call you a friend. Ryan, you don't have to barter me up to send you more toys, but it's happening anyway. But no, that's extremely generous, Ryan. If that was sent in error, let me know, and we'll figure something out. I'm not sure how to handle it on my end. I'll just PayPal you if that was an error or something. But yeah, Ryan, aka LaserPants81, because LaserPants was already taken. is one of the co-hosts of the Infinity Equation. They are a toy podcast every Friday on the Infinity Equation podcast at YouTube. They talk about toy-related news, toy updates. Bobby Valla is also part of that show, so that's where you got to go for all of your Action Force updates. You don't have to go there. He sends emails. He has his own channel, but it's good to stay in the loop that way. For really just honest guys that they take a look at the toy world much in the way that I do, just their lens of objectivity, and they're really great guys. So
I'm so happy that this is this toy commentary that's been going on lately that I see in the community is making me happy. I love that this is a thing, and so this show, and I'm going to check out that podcast because I kind of want to have that conversation all the time. I know it sounds weird to be like always into toys, but I kind of am.
Oh yeah, what's not to love? You know what I mean? It's like you and I were talking briefly off stream. There is drama in the toy community, but there's not so much that you can't ignore it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes a new toy line comes out and it's shitty, and we just don't pay attention to it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we deal with shills like we do in pop culture and entertainment. Won't name any channels here. You know who you are if you're listening. But
I think I turned one of those videos off yesterday.
Yeah, and that's I can't prove it, but I have reasonable suspicion that one of those channels does follow me because I made a video and 3 weeks later their video came out and it was almost beat for beat the same things I said and did. So I don't have any way to confirm it or say yes they ripped me off, but this is back when I had like 48 subscribers.
And they know, and that's the thing, because you're growing, clearly. You're a monetized channel. You're on your way up because of the integrity that Laser Pants brings up. So, when the time comes, they'll always know, and you'll always know. And then maybe they'll be honest with you and apologize, or maybe they just won't have the integrity to admit it. So, falls in their court.
Yep, that's the way I see it. I'm like, I know, they know, and I'm just gonna keep on keeping on, as they say. So, I do have some questions here before we go too far off on anything else, so we can get the show proper started to take a quote from you. I find myself doing that a lot, like when I want to talk about something. Like I was talking to Michael the other day, and I'd ordered him something on Amazon, and I was like, I had to wait for Amazon proper to get it instead of a third party, and I was like, I got that from Jeff. Like I pick up little things from people that I know, and that's one I picked up from you. I'll say this or that proper.
I don't even know where I got that from. I'm trying to think because that's something I haven't always said. I must have picked up from somewhere too.
Yeah, that's it. It's the show proper. That's up there. It's locked in there forever. So let's see. So let's get a little bit of background on Jeff. Now, a lot of these questions I know the answers to. I'm asking these for the benefit of everyone else who's listening. But let's get some background on you, Jeff. Not what you're doing now, but like where you came from, kind of your early beginnings. You can be as revealing as you want to be, or as close to the vest as you want to be. Just a little bit about your background.
So I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, way back in 1988. Yes, I think Ronald Reagan was still the president. I don't know, but I was born in Cincinnati, and I was an only child with a single mom. My dad passed away early, so toys were always a big part of growing up because there wasn't a brother or a sister and didn't live in a neighborhood where you really should be outside a bunch. Mom bought a house. It was the best she could do. So toys were always influential to my upbringing, and that's why I never really got rid of anything. That's why I've been able to keep a lot of fun in my life because they were a physical embodiment of an early period of my life that I've kept with me, and it's always just kept me feeling, light and young. So I think it's a really weirdly deep way to start this off, but would you like more specifics to get into collecting, or do you want to wait and that kind of stuff?
No, that's all good. The reason I ask is because Jeff and I, without revealing too much, we were born 6 months apart, something like that, and we grew up maybe 3 hours apart,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So we're cut from the same cloth, really, geographically, time wise, and all that. So we grew up with a lot of the same things. Now I had older siblings who gave me hand me downs, so I have kind of this wide brushstroke of '80s toys into the '90s. But when I think of childhood, I think of Nickelodeon and Warner Brothers Kids and Fox Kids and all that kind of stuff like that. That's what I think of when I think of cartoons. Basically whatever was available on like public cable, pretty much. If it went past like channel 30, I didn't see it till I was like middle school, probably. But that's just a question though, because I'm not sure how TV markets work. What channel was Nickelodeon when you were a kid, or do you remember?
So I didn't have cable at home, but my grandma had it. So I did grow up watching all that stuff, but it wasn't something that I want to say like it was in the 30s or something, if that makes sense, on Time Warner Cable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we had channel 31 for Nickelodeon. So must have been that some break in between. I'm just kind of curious because I always hear about TV markets because it blew my mind as a kid because I always heard, Fox 11 or something like that. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And then people would be like, oh, we're Fox 14 or something. I'm like, no, Fox is channel 11 when you meet cousins from out of town or something.
Yeah, we were Fox 19, but if you had a good antenna, you could also get Fox 45, which was the Dayton, or was it the Columbus Fox? I feel like either way, they showed The Simpsons when Fox 19 didn't, and then if you wanted to watch The Simpsons again, you could watch it at 7 on our Fox. Yeah, weird tangent, I know, but yeah, dude, Nickelodeon and all of those shows, we were lucky. That's the thing I can say about like our age group. We're in that weird window where we remember how everything used to be, so prior generations we can relate, but we're also in that weird window of the new technology, so we can still understand how it is today.
Right.
But I will say this, and it sounds maybe a little haughty, maybe a little egotistical, but we had the best kids entertainment in that window. That was just whatever, everyone was firing on all the creative cylinders, and there was something for everybody. And I'm excited. The only thing I like about streaming is it keeps a lot of these old things alive, and I'm excited to see the stuff that we grew up with stay alive because I think it has so much value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. We had everything from the 80s, and then we got to experience everything from the 90s. I call it like you said, I call it that sweet spot right in between. So it's like we grew up in a world that had the He-Mans and the Transformers and all that kind of stuff already in existence, and then we got to experience Kenner Batman and Toy Biz Marvel, and we don't know a world without episodes 4, 5, and 6. But it was like we got to experience it for the first time when the One Last Time trilogies came out.
Oh yeah,
trilogies. Like I don't know. I wouldn't trade my childhood.
When it comes to Star Wars, I say like we're in obviously the original generation will be the best, but I feel like we're the last remnant of like the original Star Wars era because it didn't have the prequels, and if you were like me, you didn't know there was a second movie at first, so you're watching that first one like religiously, and then one day they're like, there are 2 more, and I go, no, what? And then the twist, and I had to wait a week till I got to watch Return of the Jedi. Like, I feel like we in that era too, we still got all the same highs and the lows emotionally, plus the excitement of a new toy line, but we had the advent of the computer and the home console video game, which the early Star Wars generations had very thinly compared to what we had. I think we grew up in probably the richest original trilogy era possible was our childhood.
I think so too. We because we also had Shadows of the Empire and all that. I don't know about I think we've talked about this before, where I didn't know anything about the EU at all, and so when I saw like Prince Shizor or Sizor, however you want to say it, like I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he looked cool, and you had a bunch of like weird characters that you didn't know. Like I don't know. I think it was just it was great for imagination, at least. So.
And that's what's gone with it when every little thing has been either documented or wiped away. That's why the Marvel toys, I'm not here to shill for anything, but all I'm saying is like Marvel toys for kids have a bigger window for imagination because superheroes, go on these wider adventures. A lot of the Star Wars stuff was a little more linear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and start my cam here.
Oh, yes.
And you can kind of see where this night's going to be going. So, all right. So I think we pretty much already know the answer, but give us an overview of what's held your interest over the years. Because I know when it comes to collecting, like, you didn't take a break really.
No, never.
So what was it from your childhood that just held your interest the whole way through? Like,
well,
now to then.
I'm going to show you something on camera real quick. Batman, that's something that held my interest. Very specifically, the animated series Batman. And I'm going to be showing some stuff on camera today myself. But Batman, I never got out of Batman. I grew up with Michael Keaton. That's my boy. He's the best on film. Then I go, and I just never stop. I never stop with Batman. Every iteration, every animated live action, just that character, I never stopped. Spider-Man, same thing, obviously. Those two characters from the 90s on, I just never stopped collecting. And I don't know if I've ever had as much loyalty to any other characters in terms of collecting. Power Rangers, I loved the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's what I would consider my favorite childhood memory. Toys, show, everything. I wasn't happier than my Power Rangers days. And it was the best, but those did end. So that's why I was hesitant to name those right away. But wrestling as well. There was a small window where I wasn't even collecting the wrestling figures, which I love. So I guess just Spider-Man and Batman.
Yeah, that was I chose the Blue Ranger in particular because this is some of these toys are from my childhood, but I'd say probably half to about 40% of them are not. The Blue Ranger I bought later on, but I pulled him out specifically because you tell a really great story about the Blue Ranger. Because I know Tommy's your favorite now, but he wasn't always, right?
Right. So in the early days of the Power Rangers, before the Green Ranger was around, so I think it was 20 episodes. I don't remember how syndication worked, but there was a brief window where there was no Green Ranger. And even in the beginning, he was a bad guy, and I didn't trust him. So Billy was my favorite because I just loved the color blue. And I was a smart kid, but never nerdy. But I always enjoyed that Billy was smart because it's that's how you win with your brain. Just like Spider-Man, he always won with his brain. So I related to characters like that. But Christmas 1993 is the best Christmas I've ever had. I'm going to do a comic about it one day because my mom's the hero of that story. But I lost my tooth Christmas Eve, the eve of Christmas Eve 1993. So I put my tooth under the pillow for the tooth fairy, and the next morning I wake up and there's nothing under my pillow, but there's a chair next to my bed, and in the little crevice between the chair and the bed had fallen a blue Power Ranger in the box. Now, for those who don't know or remember or were collectors of Power Rangers or fans or kids, you couldn't find those toys. Like the movie Jingle All the Way, that's about the Power Ranger toy craze to a degree. Those were the hardest things to find. I remember my mom would just prime my family. Be like, look, if you find them, buy them. I'll pay you. I'll do it, whatever. I remember even going out with my cousins looking for them. Never saw them in person at all. So I go over and I look, and there's this weird triangle box, and I'm like, oh my God. And I wake up and start freaking out. Oh, Power Ranger, blah, blah, blah. And this is Christmas Eve morning. Now, I thought the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus were real at this point in time. So I'm going through this day the happiest I had ever been. And then I get to our family Christmas party, and everybody, gets their gifts and stuff, and all the kids get theirs. And I got the Black Ranger and the Red Ranger and the Pink Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. So I had Power Rangers. And then that was Christmas Eve, and that was crazy. And then the next morning I wake up, and what's there? The Green Ranger with the Dragon Zord and Titanus and a Megazord. And now I said a Megazord in a joking manner. My mom, awesome woman, love her to death, and we joke about this to this day. But she got me the Megazord that didn't transform, which is cool. It's a nice toy. I didn't even know when I got it that it was the wrong one. So we figured it out because there was a trading card on the box for the toy, which featured the other Megazord. So we figured out there must be another one. So randomly after Christmas, like a week or two, they got a restock and we're just out. And they had the real Megazord. And I'm like, Mom, it's the real one that transforms. And she just like looks at my grandma and just says okay and like folds and buys me the damn Megazord right then and there. But yeah, sorry to give you the quick rundown of the entire first season of the Power Ranger toy line, but it all stems from Billy, and it's this interesting cascade, which I have never gotten rid of any of those toys. I have them to this day. I didn't bring them out because my mom's like, could you leave those here so I can think of you still? And I said, sure. But those are the absolute best childhood toy memories, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Absolutely. I just remember all the discussions because we must have been what, like kindergarten, preschool when Power Rangers came out, I think, thereabouts.
Yeah, kindergarten.
And, I remember talking to kids at school, as kids do, because we wax philosophical on Power Rangers. When the White Ranger first showed up, all the kids talking about who's the White Ranger, trying to figure it out, and I just remember having these heated arguments, or as heated as like a 5-year-old can have, about who the White Ranger was going to be, and people were saying it was Kimberly. They were saying it was going to be Jason, or I'm like, no, that's impossible because they've all been on screen together. That's impossible. And I was like, no, I think it's Tommy, and they all thought I was stupid. Joke's on them. So.
Dude, at the time we didn't know why, but the White Ranger suit was so different, and I loved it so much. I used to draw. I still do, actually. But no, when I was a kid, I used to draw that suit. If I ever find the pictures, I'll upload them. They're funny. They're just little flat-looking pictures of the Power Rangers. But the White Ranger, I used to draw that so much. The mask, the tiger theme, all that shit. I had never been into a design. That might be the first design that like hooked me, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. And that's the thing. Like, it wasn't that far removed from the Green Ranger, but there was something different about him. Which I think, isn't he from like a completely unrelated show or something like that? And the Saba, or not Saba, the Japanese movies or whatever.
Oh, the Sentai, yeah. So
Sentai, yeah.
I think he's from the one that's called Dai Ranger, D-A-I Ranger,
mm-hmm.
which is where the Thunder Zords come from.
Gotcha. Now, see that I know we're talking a lot about Power Rangers. We'll move on. I promise, people. But I have like distinct memories of like Mighty Morphin with the Dragon Zords and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding like just through collecting like the Lightning collection that certain things didn't show up until Zeo Rangers. And I have no memory of watching Zeo, but I remember Lord Zed. I remember the Zeo buddies. I remember, certain things, but like, no, that was part of Zeo Ranger. I'm like,
wait. Somebody's telling you that Lord Zed's part of Zeo Ranger?
Mm-hmm.
That's incorrect. Lord Zed is part of Power Rangers Season 2. He appears, he takes over Rita Repulsa's lair, right, throws her back in the dumpster, and he's a creation of American, the Saban people.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
you were right the whole time, dude.
Vindication.
Look, I wasn't going to say it, but you and I are in similar Facebook groups. There's this one about the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. Those people are delusional at times. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah. That's speaking of what we talked about this, I think it was last night before, very, very briefly. What's your opinion on Ivan Ooze and that whole movie?
So I didn't like it as a kid. So everyone's like, how did you not like the Power Rangers movie? Well, let me tell you how I hated it. I loved the show. It was the best thing I had ever seen. The movie was so different that I didn't like it. I hated the costumes. I didn't like that it was dark at night. It didn't play the real theme song. The Zords looked weird. It was just different enough that it turned me off. So I don't lovingly, or look back at the Power Rangers movie that lovingly, but lovingly enough that I love the Ninja Zord, and the video games based on it are awesome. I say Power Rangers, the movie for Sega, best Power Rangers game ever. That being said, the Lightning collection like Ivan Ooze and the Tengu Warriors and all the Ninja Zord shit, I would still collect because it's part of Season 3, and I still loved the show back then. So by by proxy, Ivan Ooze gets a pass. Plus, he's played by Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
True that. Yeah, I don't know if you remember these or not, but whenever I think of that movie, I think of the McDonald's toys, where it was like the Zords on wheels, and you would just have a 5 POA. You put it. Yeah, I love those things.
Those were great, dude.
Which to this day, the best, and I will fight anyone IRL. The best McDonald's toys were either Mask of the Phantasm Batman toys or Spider-Man.
Yes. I shit you not, I might, before the stream's over, I have my Spider-Man from McDonald's and my little Batman from McDonald's in my bags. So,
oh man, those were the ones you always wanted too, because the McDonald's used to have the little plexiglass display where you have them all out, and it's like, oh, because you could get like, I don't know, like Spider-Man in a little like spider buggy basically, or they had a vehicle, but there's always like a little 5 POA figure, not even 5 POA, like 3 POA really. But I remember when Mask of the Phantasm came out, there was that Batman, and I would beg and beg and beg to go to McDonald's because you're a dumb kid. You don't know how these things work. You don't know. It's like, oh, 1 week they do this toy, or one day they do this, and whatever. And they're like, Mom, I gotta go to McDonald's and try to get Batman. Even though you have like 20 different versions of Batman in the Kenner scale, and no, you need that one because reasons.
Damn it! Now you made me go pull out the bags of figures, so I'm looking at them right now.
All right.
So I was lucky. My mom would get invested with these damn McDonald's toys, so she would like take it upon herself to like make sure we got them, and that's how I like when it came to Small Soldiers and Inspector Gadget. And,
oh my god!
Summer of '98 and '99, respectively. I had everything, man. All of them. So yeah, that's how quick I was able. Hold on, let's turn on the camera. Hi, everybody. So here's Batman.
There he is.
Spider-Man.
There he is.
Peter Parker.
Oh, I remember the head flip Peter Parker. Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone out there has read it, but there's a comic book titled Spider-Man versus Powdered Toast Man. It's a crossover with Ren and Stimpy. The Spider-Man from that comic looks dead on this figure, so I used to play with it as, this is the Spider-Man that fought Ren and Stimpy. And then so Batman was the shit because it was, realistically, this was more accurate to the TV show in color than this one. Because this was like a bluish gray, which looks beautiful and it's my favorite figure. But, this one's a little more whatever.
Oh, yeah. I remember real quick that, Echo Betty Snackword sends in a super chat. What's up, guys? I appreciate the super chat. He says, "Hail to Sense Toys. Great stream and great guest." Clearly. It says, Kenner, Star Wars, and He-Man were his favorite top two toy lines growing up, and at least one, and the last one, I got into before I was done with toys was the TMNT original line. Oh, we got TMT's coming, baby. TMT's coming. I got some next to my desk here. You guys are in for a long haul and a big treat tonight because we got all sorts of toys to go through. So anyone who's been on this particular show will tell you I prepare usually about 6 to 7 questions, and we'll go through them. But Jeff and I are going to be chewing the fat for a while regarding a lot of these toys that you see.
Oh yeah,
we grew up with a lot of the same stuff. So, but yeah, Mask of the Phantasm, to this day, it holds up.
Oh, yeah.
To this day. Like, that was... I know, it's not exactly a hot take to say that Batman the Animated Series was one of the best cartoons of all time. I think it's pretty well universally loved.
Oh, yeah.
But that show, like, some stuff you watch, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, the show's a little campy or a little silly, but you still love it because of the nostalgia or whatever. But
did I get to tell? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was only gonna say that, like, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Spider-Man Animated Series, like, they still hold up.
Oh yeah.
So
I was gonna say, I kind of friendly, could call him a friend, but not that professional. But I'm friendly with a guy that worked on Batman the Animated Series, and at first we were, friendly at a party talking about his work at Lucasfilm in the art department. But then when I went to interview him and I found out he did Batman, I was like, dude. And I didn't care about Star Wars or anything. I just wanted to talk about He helped work on the Batmobile design and the Batwing. And I was like, those designs are amazing. He's like, thank you. And to him, it was just this job. But to us, like that show, it's like mythic status. And the nice thing about it, it never went away. And Warner Brothers, this is rare for a company that holds an IP. Warner Brothers understands the value of Batman the Animated Series and is one of the few properties that has been treated perfectly from its existence. It had great budgets, great scripts, great animation. It's been preserved. It's been upscaled. They keep making great merchandise. They don't do anything to tarnish its legacy. I think that's why we feel so strongly about it, because they understand how to balance it.
Exactly. It's one of the few times that Hollywood elites haven't gone, you know what? There's probably some milk left in this cow. Let's let's take that cow's milk and try to make a new cow out of it. They know where their bread's getting buttered. So real quick, Echo Base, that's for you, bud. So
Donnie,
yeah, we'll come back to that. Leo, like an idiot, I forgot to grab Leo. So, but I have him. He's just somewhere across the room that I can't reach. I do have a Leo, which you know what? I'll just go ahead and bring him out now since I brought him up. This is from my childhood. I mean, so is the other Leo. So is that Donnie. But this,
these.
Yeah, the plushies. I have him and Mikey. So he's held up pretty well. Like, he's not all stained and gross somehow. But you know, I mean, if he had weapons, I don't know. And if he did, they're long gone. But still got him.
Seeing this took me back, dude. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. No, it's the member bearers are going to be strong tonight.
I have the biggest dumb grin on my face right now just thinking about like going to people's houses and everybody had those fucking things. Like the Ninja Turtles. It's weird. Everyone listening can understand, but the next generation probably can't, because the ubiquity of the internet has changed the way phenomenons work. Mm-hmm. But there's a window for Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Pokemon, Star Wars, essentially, at certain points in time, where like they're the thing, and like literally nothing is bigger, and it's all consuming, and it's all that's around you. And if you're into it, it's the best experience ever. There's just so many different things today. There's like no way to get everybody into one thing anymore. And I guess that's good, but I don't know. Sometimes those monoliths of childhood were just good to you.
Mm-hmm. And just like the plushie, I think everyone had one of the giant turtles, which happened to be my favorite. This one actually I picked up at a local shop. You can see where his little bandolier used to be. But I don't know. I've always had a thing for big figures, which we were talking briefly before the stream about Gentle Giant, which is what doesn't add up because I always miss out on those. But I loved the big figures when I was a kid. I loved them, and I think that might be. Yep,
Here's a big figure.
Duder, I shit you not. I have him over next to my kitchen. I was gonna have him sitting in the background of this whole thing, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have room for him."
Okay, if this counts as an action figure and not like a special, variant or whatever you want to call it, this would probably be the best standard issue Spider-Man figure ever made, because this thing was only $39 when it came out. It might have been $34.99 actually, but like this is better than any high-end collectible made today.
Mm-hmm. That's that we've talked on previous streams before about like finger and toe articulation and how much we don't like it. But on a figure like that, it works because it can be executed like engineering wise, like it can be executed fine without like making weird fists and all that.
I mean, right there, folks, he got how many different variations on each, digits and shit move, so you can get pretty natural movements.
Mm-hmm. And it's got like, if they took that amount of articulation and shrunk it down to 6 inch, I think it would break up way too much of the sculpt.
Yep.
But that is like a pinnacle of engineering. Like if you think something's gonna move, it moves. So.
And the thing is too, Sal, it's so damn sturdy. That toy has those ratchet joints, and like you really gotta lock them in. And it even comes with accessories. It has wrist launchers for web shooters. And again, that was $34.99 of a 6-inch Hasbro figure. Sometimes, like MODOK is $50.
Yep.
That's how much toy you got back then for that much money. It's crazy how, honestly, that's what stopped me from collecting toys for just a small window, like right as I got into college and out of high school, because I did Indiana Jones, but I couldn't afford to do other shit because there was that weird price hike, remember? Where figures went to $20, and they've been $20 for so long that I hate that they're $27. I'm going to stop. Like, honestly, I won't pay $27.99 for a 6-inch figure. That's too much money.
It depends on what comes with it. Like if it's like a Marvel Legend that comes standard with like 2 hands and that's it. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, because some toy lines, like it's like, okay, it's a little more expensive than the average, but it's like, oh, there's like 6 sets of hands and all these accessories.
Oh yeah,
it's like, okay, you got me.
I mean, even some of the wrestling figures from Mattel, they do these like defining Ultimate Collection figures. They're like $38. Those are worth it because you get, like you said, 4 sets of hands, 2 heads, a title belt, a cloth shirt, a pair of pants. Like, that's a valuable figure. But like, if it gets to the point where Spider-Man with an alternate head and 2 hands is $27, no more, because it's stupid. They're not that good.
No, they're not. And I get it. Cost of manufacture goes up, or with the current situation the world's in, like especially shipping containers. Like, I get it. Things happen, but at the same time, like if they get away with it now, and they're like, okay, people are still willing to pay this price, it's not going to go back down. They're going to keep it there because people were willing to pay for it the first time. So
yeah,
but we pretty much answered the next question. I was going to ask if there's anything left from your childhood, and I'm pretty sure like everything from your childhood is still around.
Yeah. So. Funny story. A couple years back, may have had the channel going, may have not. Let's just say the channel was in its early days. But I thought, I really want my Batman Forever Batmobile back. So I just went into the back room, and then I found the car baits, and then I went through all the toy boxes. I put them out, I took a tarp, put it down, went through each piece, and then I found every single piece. So then I took it and put it in my office where it remains fully intact to this day. But yeah, everything. Every gun, every sword, every accessory. And like, I took good care of my toys because I was an only child and I was spoiled, so my mom bought me tons of stuff. So you can only play with so many toys. So, for example, some of my stuff looks brand new, like Cyclops. His battery still works. Hold on. Now, let me just make sure I'm not going to jinx myself, but here he is. And let's see. I just did it in Ohio. Yeah, look, check this out, dude. Original battery on Cyclops. Tight joints. You can hear it if you listen. So, just saying, like, the stuff, it just I played with it, I loved it, and then it went in a drawer. Not a drawer, it went in the little bin, and, I played with other stuff, so.
Hell yeah. That's, I don't know. Like, it's crazy how, like we don't think about it, but it's like, oh, the light still works, all that kind of stuff, but it's like, now as an adult, if I get anything that has batteries in it, if I'm reviewing it for the channel per se, like I'll show it and I immediately take the batteries out.
Because of corrosion and stuff.
Right, but like now, or as a kid, you're just like, yeah, these batteries will be good forever. So.
Okay, so there's a toy called the Little Smart Driver, or maybe it's just called the Smart Driver. But I shit you not, my mom put batteries in there when I was a little kid, and they worked for over 20 years. I don't know how. I would go to the basement. We would joke around like, hey, is it still going to work? You would turn the thing and go, and it worked like it sounded like shit always. But for years and years, the batteries just didn't go out in that fucking thing. I don't know what magic of science it was or whatever perfect combination of battery and usage, but that thing lasted for that long. We still talk about it.
Wow. That's whatever batteries those are, that's the ones I need to be putting in my TV remotes.
Shit, dude. I bought an Xbox remote. That thing's gone through 3 sets of batteries already.
Jesus.
I just use it to stream HBO Max.
Wow. But so speaking of childhood, is there anything that you had as a kid that you didn't like to play with? Like you got it, you didn't like it, but now as an adult you have an appreciation for it.
For a minute, I didn't like Titanus because it really wasn't prominently featured on the show. But in hindsight, I'm glad I always had it because it's neat to display it that way. That's a good question. I can't say yes, but I can just reiterate the point. I guess I'm glad of how well I took care of these things, so they're all still really fresh, if that makes sense. Like, that's the appreciation I can have as an adult.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's something you had as a kid, but now you're like, oh man, like it's I guess mostly like the memories and all that kind of stuff that you get now. Like,
Oh, yeah.
for example, like I had a lot of these
Ah, Mighty Ducks, yes.
Mighty Ducks, and they were such like a weird scale and weird proportion. And I had I don't remember what it's called. It was basically like their ship that had like the hockey mask
Yep.
on the front. Like I had that, and I was like, this is such a weird thing. Like I remember immediately trying to rip that hockey mask off the front of it so I could wear it. And it was just a weird toy line to play with. But now as an adult, I look at these things, I'm like, man, they're still pretty gimmicky, but I love these things.
I wanted those so bad as a kid. I never got them. My cousin had them. So when I would go to his house, I'd be like, can we play with the Mighty Ducks toys? And he's like, sure. Because that cartoon was really cool.
It was. So it's on, I think it's on Disney Plus. It's only like 20 episodes. So it was very short lived.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fourth wall breaking. Like there's one where there's like a timer going off where like a door is going to be locked permanently, or there's like gas filling up a room or something like that. And it cuts to a commercial break to build suspense, and it comes back and it's like the timer's gone down. Like, what happened? Like, it was the commercial break. We wasted it doing nothing. So it's
watch that now.
Oh yeah, they make a joke about getting canceled. And they're like something about like it was another scenario very similar, and they're like, well, we need to figure it out before we run out of episodes since we got canceled. Like there's a lot of fourth wall breaking in that. So
man, I miss stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Now here's something, and you and I have talked about it before, and I've got them on standby just waiting because I've told the story a couple of times. And I have other examples. Don't worry, people, you're not going to hear the same story twice. I mean, you will, but you'll hear an additional one. Was there any toy that you saw at Walmart, Kmart, Kroger, Hills, whatever, what have you, that you're like, Mom or Grandma, I gotta get this. This thing is awesome. And then you got home and it just completely sucked.
Oh God, so many times. Oh, that was. See, I was lucky. Only child, single mom. My mom busted her ass, but she gave me anything I wanted. It was like I was a rich kid. But she took me to the toy store every week. She can get a small toy, and so it was like $20, and that's a lot. So I'm sure I'm trying to think of some real big stinkers. So the way I operated was if I was into Power Rangers, like it was only Power Rangers. So there wasn't really anything. The Power Rangers Power Cannon was a really disappointing toy, if I could say that. That thing, it looked like a dragon, and you put these colored balls into it, and you pulled it and pressed the trigger. They used it like once or twice on the show. That was a disappointing toy. But, you know, the Godzilla sets that came out in the 90s were disappointing because the commercials made them out to be amazing. They didn't really have any paint. They were the cheapest damn toys ever made. That was the biggest disappointment.
Mm-hmm. That's I was looking over at my God, what's it called? I can't remember his name now. But I'm looking at one of those Godzilla toys. He's just out of arm's reach. I would grab him, and I had so many of those Godzilla toys, and couldn't figure out the scale. It seemed like sometimes you get a Godzilla that was kind of big, but then none of the other figures fit. And I was always like, oh, these things look so cool. But then you'd go to play with them, and it's like you can't do anything. Like the arms move and the legs move, but not in any convincing way. So
weren't they made by Trendmasters?
You know what? He's just out of arm's reach, and I think
here, I'll look it up myself. Don't worry. Trendmasters. Yep, Trendmasters Godzilla is the first thing that pops up. Yeah. Oh man, it was so weird in the 90s as well because you would get toy lines based off of stuff that hadn't had a movie in decades or stuff that wasn't really popular anymore. Like Godzilla wasn't popular in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be until '98 when the damn Matthew Broderick movie came out. Matthew McConaughey and Godzilla would be cool, but
Yeah, I think the movie would have done better.
yeah. I mean, Jean Reno's cool, but Matthew McConaughey is way cooler.
Yeah, that was the thing I remember the most is the Taco Bell commercials.
Oh yeah,
The here lizard, lizard, lizard. That's what I remember the most. So this is the one I was Gigan. Of course, I remember his fucking name. Doesn't even move. Like not even like he might be super glued. I don't know. I got this one secondhand, but Gigan was one of my favorites. And yeah, like you get it, and then you're like, okay, now what?
dude, I have so many King Ghidorah heads because I would get
Yes,
I would get the sets, and you would get like the same figure smaller than you would get the bigger one. So it's whatever. I didn't really need both scale, but like let's say you got Godzilla and it came with King Ghidorah, and then you got like the Godzilla City and it also came with King Ghidorah, and then you got another like Mothra and that came with King Ghidorah. You're like, Jesus Christ!
mm-hmm.
I had so many of those fucking heads just lying around. That was the point line I got it up so quickly. I think I liked Godzilla for about 3 to 4 months in like 1997, and then just stopped. Like I got into it right before the movie came out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a lot of mine came from Big Lots.
Yep,
love Big Lots. And don't worry,
dude, so many good memories.
We're going to go off on a tangent here shortly about Big Lots and Grandmas because they're the fucking that's the winning combo right there. But I remember I got this gigantic, well, to me, gigantic as a kid, but it was like the cityscape of Godzilla. And like it was like buildings that broke and there were tanks and all that kind of stuff.
Is it the thing I just sent you a picture of?
It's a distinct possibility.
Because I had that.
That's it. That's exactly
the one I had.
Oh my god.
See, King Ghidorah.
Yep. Let me go ahead and save that and I'll pull it up real quick. But yeah, like I remember I got that and it was so flimsy and it fell apart almost immediately.
Hey, can I just point out how well? Hold on, you're gonna pull the image up, right?
Yeah.
It's such a weird toy that you couldn't really. It's odd to look at today because of the city skyline that's in the toy.
Mm-hmm.
But you get this and you think it's going to be epic because the commercial's epic, and it's mostly cardboard.
Yep. It's like I think the buildings are like plastic, but it's like 99% cardboard, and there it is.
Yeah.
Like I remember like the little army men, like that's what drove me nuts. Like, so talking about scale really quick, scale was super important. And it's like, okay, like I can suspend my disbelief. Like the buildings were kind of in scale with the figures, but it was like the tanks. And here, let me zoom into this real quick. So, like, oops, the tanks here. Like, you see those army men like next to those tanks? I hope.
Yep.
Like, there's... Oh, no, you don't. Okay. Dang. Well, technology's hard, people. I'm sorry. So, let me... Here. Okay. So, the tanks next to those people, like, that's where my disbelief stopped. I was like, no. I was like, those don't even fit. And then, like, the people were coming up to, like, Godzilla's ankles and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it was just... I don't know. The playset either needed to be smaller or the figures needed to be bigger. Now... The thing I wanted to bring up about Godzilla was, let me stop that. There we go.
It comes on Godzilla, man. Whew.
Yeah.
He needs giant floss.
That's right. Now, do you remember when it comes to Godzilla, like the thing I remember the most about those toy lines were like these random like humans in like Power Ranger armor, basically.
Yeah. And they were weird colors, right?
Yeah, it was like blue and silver, white and silver, red and silver, and it was just like I think there was a cartoon with them in it, but I have like no recollection of it.
I didn't watch it if it was a thing.
Yeah, so that's what I think when I think of like Godzilla from the 90s is like all those figures just at KB Toys and like on clearance, always on clearance. There was always, I think it was the woman that was in white and silver, I think. And I just remember seeing her all the fucking time. All the time. And like, I don't know how that's supposed to work. Like, who is she? Why does she fight Godzilla? Why is she the same size as my Godzilla toy?
And why aren't they in the movies?
Exactly.
Because the way I played with the toys, all toys actually, if it was from a movie or a show, I would usually put the show or the movie on and then play with the toys, either in conjunction with the show or just like after I saw Star Wars 100 times, I just put the movie on and then played with the ships and had my own little stories and shit. But like with Godzilla, I kind of would watch the movies, and if I had the set, I'd be like, boo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But these robot people and all this random extra crap just wasn't there.
I agree. That was not wasn't winning any awards. So people know this story pretty well. And I've told you this story about the first time, because I've got a ton of stinkers. I've got 2 examples in my lap. I mean, 2 from the same thing, but 2 examples in my lap waiting in the wings here. The first time, the toy that made me like, because I don't know about you, but like I basically go to the toy aisle and like hallucinate. Like I would pull something off the peg and just stare at it and just think about playtime and all the things I'm going to do with it when I get home. And it was a set. And it was the thing that made me really start looking at the toys I was buying. And I actually have an image I can save and pull up. But it was the toy that made me really start looking at like articulation and how I was going to feasibly be able to play with it, because I got home and I was like just completely devastated by it. And here we go. So I can at least save this image so that way people can see the other part of it. So I only have the one. But it was this apocalypse right here. So he came in a 2-pack with a Cyclops, and this figure is garbage. So you see him in the package, and you're like, oh, he's got a Gatling cannon, and he's got a mace, and his arm pops off and all that. But he has like no articulation. Like his arm only comes forward like that far. So it's not an effective weapon. And yeah, you could crank this and shoot stuff. And it's like, okay, you know, it's not the best, obviously.
Play features sucked. I hated action features on toys.
But that right there, that Cyclops is what killed that 2-pack completely. Because he's molded in that weird action pose.
Yep.
And he's only 5 POA. And it's like he has no laser beam or anything. It was just the worst. That's
childhood disappointment. The epitome of childhood disappointment. That's, folks, I guess your audience will probably be older, but if you're younger and don't know what it's like, so many toys had stupid action features and terrible action poses. I hated that. All I wanted it to do was do what it did in the show, and when it was done, put it down, and it looked normal. Power Rangers were awesome because that Blue Ranger was the first toy I had that had posable fingers, and he has the set of 3 fingers, and then he has the other one where he can hold the blade blaster. Excuse me. But like, just features took away from functionality. Like the Mandarin from the old Iron Man series, his arms lit up, but you couldn't really move them. I remember moving them up once, and it ripped the wires out of the toy and destroyed it. Like, that was the only toy I ever broke, and I barely played with the damn thing. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, that is what it was like growing up. It's like so many toys, like all the Men in Black toys were the worst. Oh my god, that's why I didn't do them. Because they just didn't look like the movie. They were in these poses, and they were nothing but action features.
Mm-hmm. That's like an action feature that didn't affect it.
That was the best one ever.
Like, I mean, you didn't have like any head movement, but you still had knees and elbows and an elbow swivel and hinge and swivel, like up at the shoulders. Like, they were still fun to play with. But one of the worst toy lines, I feel like. And maybe I'm speaking out of my ass here, but it's just based on my memories. I feel like the 90s was like the age of licensed toys. Like if there was a movie, it had a toy line.
Yep.
Waterworld had a toy line. But Independence Day were some of the worst. Like, the aliens were so cool. It's like, okay, I can open up the head and the little alien comes out. Couldn't stand to save their lives, and the tentacles popped out if you tried to move them.
And then I had dodged a bullet because I have a very vivid memory of being a child with one of my aunts asking me what I wanted for Christmas. And I said, I want Independence Day toys. I never got them, but I dodged the bullet.
You dodged a big bullet. Like, it speaks volumes. Just to go back to Men in Black real quick, because Will Smith. It was like 96 to 98 was like the years of Will Smith.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes that the Burger King toys for Men in Black were better than the real toys. And that might be Men in Black 2. But so the other example, and this is a movie that if you know it, I'm sure you've forgotten clean about it. I had these exact two figures, the only two I got from the movie, because the figures are such garbage.
Oh no, The Warriors of Virtue. I hate that movie.
Yep. These weird,
with a passion.
Yeah, these weird kangaroo people things, which I feel like it's a massive missed opportunity, especially in the current internet culture, to not have the Warriors of Virtue signaling.
Yeah.
But yeah, these things were garbage. Because they're like these basically ninja kangaroo things in the movies, and they barely move. They have these rubber skirts that make their leg articulation useless.
Dude, my cousin used to have, like, I guess it's a set of 4, I think, and he liked that movie. He just would, like, he had all the figures, and he's like, we gotta watch The Warriors of Virtue, and I'm like, no, this is the same cousin that had the Mighty Ducks toys. I was like, no, we don't ever again. It was garbage, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, he redeemed himself because he's the reason I found out what Small Soldiers is, and that what it was. Yeah. Amazing.
Dude, I tell you, Small Soldiers. So at some point on this channel, I haven't announced it or anything because it'll happen at some point. This Christmas, I would love to have a watch party and just get a few of you guys on here to do a watch party for Jingle All the Way.
Oh, yes.
Just because it's so topical. Like, that movie has only remained topical because of scalping and how people are with toys. But at some point, I would love to do Small Soldiers. Small Soldiers, because it has all the corporate greed and the mindset and all that, and how, like, the old toys get phased out in favor for new tech that isn't necessarily good, all that kind of shit. But to me, Small Soldiers is inherently and permanently linked to Surge, the drink.
I drank Surge at that time, so I guess in a way it was for me too, because I loved Surge. That was the drink of drinks. And then Citra came out, and then I moved to that one. But oh my god, Surge, I can still taste it. So sugary.
That's it was 98, I think, when that movie came out. 98,
yep.
Maybe 99. I think it was 98.
You are correct.
And they had the Burger King toys. And Burger King had Surge on tap. And that was the first time I ever had Surge, was at a Burger King. And actually, Nick will appreciate this. I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And we stopped for lunch, and I got a Surge because all the kids at school were talking about how great Surge was, how great it was. And I got it, and oh my god. So they're permanently linked in my head.
That is like the drink of the 90s for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, we at the beginning of the stream, when I said about we had the best children's entertainment, it was like a weird, cool culture, too. Like, the kids' culture was still, I don't know, it was like still a part of marketing and still a big thing. We all, like, there were the Kid Choice Awards and this and that, and the big kids' meal at Burger King. Like, there was this whole, like, subculture. All it is they learned how to market to children and make us consumers, essentially what it is. But it was a cool thing. It worked. You don't see that today, so I wonder what's changed.
Well, nothing good, I'd say. Well, yeah, because it's like you really don't see, or at least I don't. I'm sure they exist, but it's like you don't see, like, toys out of kids, like, entertainment nowadays. Like, I don't ever remember seeing, at least when I was a kid, like Dexter's Laboratory toys or Ed, Edd n Eddy toys or anything like that.
Which was weird, because I had bought them.
Oh yeah, like with Dexter's Laboratory, all the weird like monsters and stuff he creates, the toy line basically makes itself. I'm sure it existed or exists now, but I have no recollection of it.
You know what cartoon had a toy line like oddly late in its life was Inspector Gadget, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that was my jam as a kid because the cartoon ended in like 1986 and the toy line came out in like 1991 or two. So I don't know why they didn't do more cartoon toys. I loved that stuff. I wanted a Doug Funny action figure so bad as a kid. I think my mom made me a paper doll of it. And I was like, all right, cool, Doug. It didn't last for more than a couple days, but they never cashed in on that stuff. I wonder why.
I don't know. Like I just had this weird memory of college, which is fairly recent in comparison to childhood. We're like 10 years removed now, but still, I went as Quail Man for Halloween one year at the dorms, and people are just like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Quail Man." You know, this is back before the nerd zeitgeist, like it became cool. So it's just like, yeah, okay, dude. Like, oh, okay, well, I'll just be Quail Man by myself over here, trying to find a patty, mix some mayonnaise.
I'd have high-fived you if I had seen you in person. I'm just letting you know, because I would have understood. I have seen guys dressed as Quail Man and high-five them. So,
hell yeah, it takes a lot of work to get that belt to stay up.
I can only imagine.
So I ended up taking like basically a wire coat hanger and just kind of bending it and taping it around the belt to get it to stay. What didn't look great, but it stayed put.
It works though.
So let's see. We've talked about toys that sucked, toys that we loved. What other than like Power Rangers, is there anything up here that particularly jumps out at you that you may have forgotten about, or something that you'd like to talk about that you haven't talked about already?
I mean, obviously Star Wars, but I'll leave Star Wars alone for a minute. Well, we talked off air about the Leon Kennedy Resident Evil and the Big Lots connection.
Oh yeah, so let's do that. Let's talk about whom we call the great spoilers, grandmas and Big Lots. So I know, at least for me, my grandma, so me and my little sister are the youngest, or were the youngest for decades, because we were like the last grandkids to be born, and she passed away before any great grandkids showed up, because we were the youngest out of all the cousins, and my mom was the youngest of her kids. Like, we were just in that sweet spot. So anytime we went to see grandma, it was like the weeks or whatever of pent up I want a new toy energy we had. She would just take us to Big Lots because that's all she had in her town. And she'd like, figures were what, like $2, $3 at the most. Oh. And she'd just like pick out whatever you want. And, you know, we'd have like a stack of like 8 toys, and she'd be like, all right, honey child, just, you know, and we'd get whatever we wanted. And by that token, Big Lots isn't known exactly for having the newest of the new on the pegs. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting stuff like Skeleton Warriors and like
God, those were there forever.
Yeah, some real late in the line like TMNT stuff. Like I had like a robot version of Bebop and Rocksteady.
Cool.
Oh yeah, they were like vac metal. They had light piping. Like, in hindsight, they're really cool. But so we got like real late in the line stuff, or stuff that was like kind of long gone. But that's where I got this Leon Kennedy and the Liquor, who's down here, Liquor 2-pack. I got those two, William and Grunt, which came with a zombie, I think. And so, yeah, that was where I got this little Leon who still works. His shotgun is somewhere. But yeah,
you talk about Big Lots, dude. When I was a little kid, they still had Kidder Star Wars at mine.
Wow. I mean, yeah. that tracks. You're from Cincinnati.
Yeah. Some of the earliest Big Lots toys I remember getting were the Kenner Superpowers, and then the Toy Biz like rip-off versions that came out right at the end of the 80s or whatever. Mm-hmm. I remember getting a lot of those from there. I had that fucking Lex Luthor that punched himself in the head. Oh my god, that was terrible. But no, we had so many toys. I think my Big Lots must have been fairly popular because we had a bunch of them, and then we would get like G.I. Joe Extreme may have come out in May, and
Oh
it's
my
already
God.
at Big Lots in, October or something like that. Big Lots, a lot of times for me, you didn't have to wait too long at Big Lots to find stuff. I remember getting, not a lot, but getting some Michael Keaton Batman stuff from Big Lots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember I got, I don't think I have them anymore, but it was the Michael Keaton that had like that weird kind of, I don't remember the design, but it was like he was just like basically a black jumpsuit that had like lines across his chest with like a little red emblem, and you put that little rubber mask over him.
Hold on. I got one right here, I think.
Oh boy.
Oh, honestly, it's my Batman bag. I think did I bring him out? Yeah, right here. This one?
That's him. There he is.
It actually looks like Michael Keaton. That's the thing.
Hell yeah.
Just with better hair.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like, it was some kind. It was like a rubber body overlay thing. It turned him into Batman.
Now, are you reading comics at all, or do you follow any like news about comics?
The only comic books I'm actively reading at the moment is Action Force by Bobby Valla. I haven't read a new, like, other than like the Indiegogo comics that I get, like, which includes Stealing Solo. I haven't really read anything new since like 20. I think I bought a one-off issue in like 2018 or 2019, and like before that was like 2013 or something.
Now, the only reason I ask is because there's a new Batman '89 comic, and in the design work, Bruce Wayne wears this jumpsuit underneath the bat armor. Like, it's now officially part of the thing. They've retroactively gone back and put this outfit as part of the comic book for that '89 universe. It's pretty cool.
That is a hell of an Easter egg.
Yeah, I saw that and I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. Like, today I realized I haven't bought the comic yet, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy it no matter what because it's Michael Keaton Batman. But God, I love everything from that movie, man. It's just like printing money from my wallet. Like, here, DC, please let me buy the Hot Toys. Let me buy this. Let me buy this Batarang. I can't have enough of it.
Hell yeah. So, let's see. We got some chats to kind of go through. I haven't been ignoring the chat, I promise. But Laser Pants just says Crystal Pepsi.
I do enjoy Crystal Pepsi. Thanks to the LA Beast, we got to try it a couple summers ago.
Hell yeah. Bjorn Jorgensen, he confirms Dexter's Lab toys were made after the show ended.
Oh.
So, real quick, and it's a weird question out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of it, but there was like a made-for-TV movie for Dexter where he went through time and like pulled out like different versions of himself from like the future and the past and like made this giant like Power Rangers mech suit to fight something.
You know what? You're jogging a memory. I think I can see it kind of.
Where like one version of Dexter's like from this apocalyptic future where he's like bald and has a huge beard, he's all like ripped and muscly like He-Man and stuff.
I had to have seen this because this is ringing many bells.
And then there's like God, what the weird part was there was like an old version of Dexter, but I don't because he's like kid Dexter, then there's like lanky teenager Dexter where he's very extra nerdy, then there's like super muscular Dexter, and then it's the old version where it's like, oh, Billy, all the time. But it's like in the future and it's all very like utopian and everything floats and drives around.
It's called Dexter's Laboratory Ego Trip.
Ego Trip, yep, there it is. Yep. I don't know why I remembered that out of nowhere just now, but
I watched this for sure because Dexter's Laboratory was one of my favorite cartoons ever. You know what I remember most vividly about this cartoon? It was the first cartoon I ever heard the word crap in.
Oh, okay.
There's an episode where Dexter takes a note to the gym teacher and he goes, "What is this crap?" and then smacks it on the desk, and I'm just like, whoa. I didn't know they could say that in a cartoon.
Hell yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the character's name. I'd have to look it up. Let's see. But there was there's always those what would you call them? Like voices that you recognize, or I guess actors that you recognize, and you never quite you know the voice, or you know the face, but you never know who it is or anything like that. And there it is. Kusala Goopa Goop was voiced by Dom DeLuise.
Ooh, Cecil.
Yeah, for those curious, that's the Kusala Goopa Goop.
Oh,
So, yeah, that was that. It took me forever to remember Kusala Goopa Goop. I had to look it up. But Dom DeLuise was the first time where I was like, because I never really paid attention, like, unless I knew who the actor was. Like, every kid from the 80s and 90s knew who Arnold Schwarzenegger was. But it was like Dom DeLuise's voice was so distinct. That was the first time I heard, like, when the Kusala Goopa Goop episode came on and I saw it for the first time. I was like, I know that voice, and it's because he's the wiener dog from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first time I was like, oh, people do other things. That, like, for a long time I thought if someone died in a movie, they died in real life. Like, I didn't understand that things were just a movie. So, or like if someone got their hand, like when I thought Luke got his hand cut off, I thought he really got his hand cut off.
He committed to that role. Mark Hamill, I salute you, sir.
Yeah, I remember talking to my dad as a kid. I was like, Dad, like, I don't, like, because when you're a kid, you see movies, you're like, that looks really cool. But I was like, Dad, what if I become an actor when I'm an adult and they make me cut my hand off? And he just, I was not a bright kid. Connor Fuller, thank you for the super chat. He says, you are both a generation below me in cartoon years, but really enjoying the stream and your experiences with the toys of that time. Thank you, Connor. And I find that even though the IPs may change, that the experiences are largely the same. Like, if you look at them, like, at their basic components, like, we see a cartoon, we see a toy, we buy the toy, and we enjoy it or we don't enjoy it. But it's like the experiences remain the same. It's just the plot points change.
That's why when I make, we'll talk about Kevin Smith and He-Man, it's like, look, I'm not into He-Man, but I understand what it's like to have your favorite characters treated like this and then be lied to about it. So I'll always fight that good fight because it's not my childhood, it's not my property, but somebody's. So let's all stick together on these and just like kind of let them stop, make them stop doing these things.
And Motu is one of those things, like he appeared in my video today. This is my childhood Fisto. I mean, it was actually my brother's, but I got it as a hand-me-down. He's got very stanky legs. But, like, I had no real frame of reference for Motu. I think there was, like, a couple golden books or golden tapes or whatever those things are. Like, I saw a couple of those, but I had never seen the show, and I had a couple of the figures growing up. So I'm relatively new to Motu. That's pretty much all my channel's been about for, like, the last 2 months is Motu Origins. But I've seen the entire... seen the entire original show. Mostly, like, I watched probably like the first 15 episodes, and as you do, like, when you watch a show for so long, you start pulling your phone out, you start doing other things while it plays in the background. Because when I was overseas at the time, I don't know if it was on Netflix everywhere, but at least the overseas Netflix where I was at that time had He-Man on it, and I watched it that way. But so I'm relatively new to Motu, and even I didn't.
Oh, very good.
And I was like, even I didn't like the Kevin Smith Motu at all.
I didn't watch it, but our friend Jay Peerboom told me about the comics that came, the mini comics that were with the toys that got collected into a nice Dark Horse omnibus. Mm-hmm. And so I bought that a couple years ago and had read through that once. So I don't remember everything, but like that version of Masters of the Universe is pretty cool. The show is a little different than that, but whatever that version is, I'm into that enough.
Yeah, and even the mini comics have their own story separate from the cartoon. I've been told by many people who were alive around that the mini comics are actually a better story than the cartoon is. But
that's what I'm taking from it, because I love Skeletor and He-Man and all the the memes and the jokes and stuff, but He-Man's a little more like Conan to me than, or at least should be in film format than, campy humor. But hey, it wasn't my era, so let it be.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Kevin Smith thing. Just to touch on it very quickly, because I don't think I've made my opinions public on the channel before. If it wanted to be its own thing, like it's supposed to be, then okay, fine, it's its own thing, and I don't have to watch it. But it was the 2 years that they spent building it up as a sequel series. And then it just fucking wasn't. Because, like, I know enough about like the Motu lore to be like, that's not correct, that's not accurate. So, but Greg says Dom Deluise, that is, has 3 sons. He and all of his sons appear in different episodes of Stargate SG-1, where his son Peter was also a frequent director. I did not know that.
Nor did I.
So I remember, oh God, it must have been the movie Kindergarten. I was in, Kindergarten. And I remember Valentine's, getting a Stargate Valentine's. It was just one of the like Anubis guys or something like that. And there were toys involved and all that. But that's kind of my only Stargate. I didn't see the movie Stargate till I was in high school because I got it at Big Lots on VHS for like $2. But
I had the Matrix Revolutions on VHS from Big Lots for $2, and then I took it home and it was in Spanish. I was like, God damn, Big Lots. Like, that was the thing, the double-edged sword about Big Lots. Sometimes you got great deals, sometimes you got honey dick, because you got stuff that you thought was a great deal, and it was the Spanish version of the Matrix.
oh yeah, the honey dick TM, by the way.
Yeah. We'll be putting out a honey dick shirt soon.
Hell yeah. So, really quick, just speaking of Motu and memories and all that, and we'll move on, I promise. I just want to make Jeff aware of this if you didn't already know. There's a Motu wrestling mashup line.
Yeah. Ooh, so, yeah, I should say.
Oh, yeah. So, in a box that has been trying to find a good opportunity, there's a very, very, very sought-after Motu Origins, Motu WWE mashup figure that no one can find, that I found one of for Jeff, and it's The Rock.
Yeah. Oh, you rock, dude. No pun intended.
See, I only ever saw the one, and he's evidently extremely sought after. So, but let's see. Oh, here we go. Bjorn brings up something I wanted to talk about, which we'll get more into later. The Next Generation Star Trek voices for gargoyles.
Wasn't Jonathan Frakes the bad guy?
I think so. I'm not sure who. I remember Riker. I don't remember the actor's name, but Riker was the voice of the bad guy.
Yep, that's Jonathan Frakes.
Okay. Yeah,
because I think of him from Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Oh, not a chance. No way.
Yeah. Haha. Fooled you.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. Xanatos. There it is. And Troy. Yeah. Demona was Troy. Xanatos was Riker. But yeah, that was one of the few cartoons that my dad would actually sit down and watch with me because of the voice actors. I got some VHS for my birthday from my grandma, and then like I had a bunch of the toys. We'll talk about them more here in a minute, because there's a big time memory that I would love to talk about, but we'll get there when we get there. So let me see if I have any of my other. Thanks. I'm getting text from my internet company. They're like, "Hey, there's a hurricane headed your way," and I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it is. Well, they're saying a tropical cyclone. It's not quite. I think it's been downgraded. I'm not sure how all that works. So, let's see. Now, you've mentioned it before on your channel. Back in my day, when there was Good Morning Pop Culture on the reg. For those that don't know, Good Morning Pop Culture was a daily show. What was it at 8 or was it at 10?
It was at 8. Yeah, I would start. I think 7:45 is when I would go live.
Yep. Good Morning Pop Culture. We are live.
Oh, that was rough.
Yeah, I love those days. That was like, because if I was on day shift, it was like, okay, like I would try to sneak away at work to listen to it. Or if I was on nights, it was like perfect for me to listen to right before I went to bed. And I'd like on my days off, I'd go out into the little garage I had at the time and work on my little costumes and my customs and all that, so I didn't have to breathe in paint fumes. But I remember having to wait. Once we get 200 viewers, we'll get started, and it was always a great thing. But you'd mentioned many a time you went to Catholic school.
Yep.
As you were growing up. How did school affect toys? Because I know at least the area I grew up in, like I didn't go to like a Catholic school, but like Satanic Panic was still pretty prevalent where I went to school, like Harry Potter, Pokemon, anything. It was always the devil because Pokemon taught evolution and all this other kind of crazy stuff.
So I went to a Catholic school that taught evolution as well. Yeah, spoiler alert. In my area, because the way it worked where I lived is there was a Catholic church like every couple blocks. The satanic panic and all that stuff, that's more of like a Christianity. There's like a weird difference because it didn't affect any of that stuff. We had Pokemon cards at school. The only reason Pokemon cards weren't allowed anymore is because you would trade them at recess and kids were getting their cards stolen. Nothing was ever too violent or too demonic. Like, when all these parent council groups were going after like wrestling or Power Rangers, I was wearing wrestling shirts to school. My friend wore a DX shirt that said "Suck It." So it didn't actually. It's kind of funny how I guess I had this weird vacuum of an experience with like Catholic school where the Catholic school I went to, it was taught by all lay people in quotation, so no real priests or nuns. And it was just, essentially I lived in a bad neighborhood. It was the best school you could go to. So there you go.
All right. That's good to hear. I wouldn't say I missed out on a whole lot that way because I was like, okay, I just won't bring it to school. Whatever. I'll just play with my Pokemon. Like, Pokemon cards is something I collected, never learned how to play the game.
Same.
That's what the Game Boy was for.
Yeah.
So
exactly, Pokemon Yellow with my lime green Game Boy Color.
Yep.
That's how I played Pokemon.
Yep, I had the same lime green Game Boy. I got
it was a beauty.
Yeah, I got a purple one for Christmas, the normal one, and a friend of mine in class got the lime green one for Christmas. Purple was his favorite color, green was my favorite color, so we just traded. And but my mom had a conniption. She was like, "Do you know how much that cost?" I was like, "It's the same thing. It's just." But I understand that as a mom or whatever, they look at we spent money on this one and not realizing that it's the same thing, just a different color. But kids are kids.
Oh yeah,
we're all pretty much assholes at that age anyway. So
I saved up my own money to get a Game Boy Color. I was 9 years old, but I don't know what I was doing, but I was doing stuff where I was making like a couple bucks here and there. And I remember the day my grandma took me to see Star Wars Episode 1, I was kind of disappointed. But after the movie, we picked up my mom, went to lunch, and then I ended up buying a Game Boy Color and The Legend of Zelda.
Nice.
So, yeah, weird memory just popped back into my mind. Good memory, though.
That's the whole point of this show, is to try and kind of dig up some of those old memories and try to break from the mundane kind of adult life, I guess. So, especially with everything going on, I think we all need a break from real life.
Oh, hell yeah. This is, like I said to you off air, I had a smile on my face all day. I've been so excited for this stream, dude.
Hell yeah. And like I've mentioned to anyone else who's ever been on this show, you're more than welcome to come back here. It's not a one and done. You can always come back. We can always talk more.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm holding back. Believe me, if you down the road when we're on episode 88 and we're talking about the intricacies of the Toy Biz X-Men line, the first wave, then I'll pull it back a little. But until we get there, I'm always happy. I have tons of shit to talk about. It's me. We've been, like you said, friends for about 4 or 5 years now, and we have something new to talk about all the time.
Oh yeah, and we could probably spend an entire episode on just the Toy Biz X-Men.
Oh yeah. The funny thing is, dude, for as much as I love and know about the toy line, as a kid, I just had like a few. But now, it's one of those weird toy lines that I've gone back and I've strongly considered getting an entire carded collection of like the Jim Lee style team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just talked myself into doing it.
Nice. That was when Laser Pants was on. He told me about Big Bad has a ton of new stock of Toy Biz Marvel from the 90s.
Yes. They have, so I don't know if you remember when they would re-release some of those other Toy Biz superhero toys on like a generic Marvel superhero card.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are ones I remember finding at Big Lots and droves, the big 10-inch figures, that and the other. But yeah, he's right, because they got Daredevil, and the other night I was drinking or somewhere, and I made a joke, and I posted a picture of the Invisible Woman's face, and it's the old Toy Biz figure, but I had just taken a screenshot from Big Bad Toy Store. I strongly considered buying those too. I'm like, I don't know what I need them for, but they look fun.
I think it's just to have like because it's new old stock. Like, how often does that really happen? You know, and it's it's coming from Big Bad, so they're going to pack it well and all that. And it's just I don't know. I ooh, that stuff like it. I can't. Yeah, when you said Big Lots and Marvel Supers, I can't get that orange sticker out of my head. That orange price tag, just because we remember back in our day when they used to just go click with a little sticker gun and they'd put a price on something.
Yep.
And you'd be digging and have to look at it like, can I get this? Like, no concept of like $5 versus 10. And I don't know if your mom or your grandma ever did this, but like we'd go to the toy aisle and they'd be like, you can pick something from here to here, because it was always like the expensive stuff was on like the bottom and the top, and in the middle was like kind of the normal size action figures.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd give you like a parameter, like you can pick from these 3 pegs, kind of thing.
I was lucky I didn't have that. I tell you a memory though, I do have that happening one time, and it was funny because I wanted, because it was my cousin and my aunt was whatever. She's not somebody I really like that much. But anyway, we went to the toy store and she's like, I guess I'll buy everybody a toy, but you got to keep it at like $5. But my cousin's cousin on the other side, who I'm not related to, he had whatever money so he could get a more expensive Ninja Turtle. Mm-hmm. I just wanted Inspector Gadget, who was $4.99, and I was set. So that was like the only time I ever had that. The way it worked with me as a kid, so I would get into toy lines. And so if I was into like Batman the Animated Series, my grandma bought me Combat Belt Batman. I vividly remember it to this day. But like, I just so happened to want a $5 figure. I didn't go to a toy store and see the Batmobile and want a $20 or $30 car. I wanted to get Batman first, and then basically it was like an initiation. I had to Batman had to prove himself that he was a fun toy, if that makes sense. So once I got Batman and enjoyed it, then I would naturally want more. The only toy line that I kind of went out of the gate swinging with was the Power Rangers, because there's 5 of them, so you got to have the team. And then every time they would release, the flip heads or the automorphins that they're actually called, you don't just get 1 or 2, at least at my household. I was lucky. It's like, all right, we found Jason, then we found Zach, then we found Kimberly, Trini. Oh, Billy was the last one. Then we found both Tommies. Like, it was always a fun hunt and a quest for toys, but it just naturally was for $5 to $20 toys. And then at Christmas, it was the huge blowout with the Zords and the command centers and everything. So like the entire toy line would be at home, but it was always just naturally built through the lower end stuff, because I just wanted volume at that age.
Oh yeah, it's I was very much the same way. And we'll talk about them later, but something like the Millennium Falcon, something like, oh, I want the Millennium Falcon, but it's like, you kind of realize, I only have like 2 figures. Like, if all I have is Darth Vader and a Tusken Raider, what good is the Millennium Falcon going to do me?
I mean, there's not even a Sam person at Mos Eisley, so
right.
There's not even like a dream world where you can be like, this ship and this random guy.
Right. So real quick, and I'll move them off the table. Did you ever get into the Jurassic Park toys?
No, I didn't see Jurassic Park until 2013.
Wow.
I saw it at the 20th anniversary IMAX screening in New Jersey. I was up there for WrestleMania 29, and I saw it. I loved it. We own the 4K box set. I do enjoy Jurassic Park quite a bit, but I have no connection to Jurassic Park as a child. It's just a movie I saw as an adult.
Yeah. That was, I ended up with a lot of Jurassic Park toys because they were dinosaurs.
Dude, I always thought it was funny they had their own branding on there. They said JP.
Oh yeah, right there in his tail.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, they supposedly they did that as a way to copyright the dinosaurs, because you can't copyright a dinosaur, so they had to come up with a brand or something. I think it was maybe on the Toys That Made Us. I think I watched that episode. I don't remember where I learned it, but that's how that came into being. Is they needed a way to copyright the dinosaur design.
I believe that, and that's, I guess, kind of smart, because. Oh, I don't know if I never mentioned this to you. Jesse and I now collect together, which is fun, because normally, do you ever read those memes where it's like, I gotta lie, tell my wife how much I spent or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I date somebody that she's like, okay, cool, you're into it, and now she's into it with me. So like, I bought her Loki, and I bought all these things, and I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, I'm in a good situation about collecting. I don't have to worry about those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was like, where was I going?
It's all good. Real quick, Greg asks, how do you find toys that are almost 30 years old to have in stock? I don't know if he's asking us or if he's asking like generic, like the Royal You. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure if this happened with Big Bad when they got all that old stock. I know somewhere, was it like South America, there was like an old storage unit that was found with like just boxes and boxes of Kenner mask that never got delivered. So like it happens. Like okay, yeah. So he clarifies it as Big Bad. Probably the same thing. Like I'm sure it was probably like a shipping container or something got put into storage or dry dock somewhere, and maybe the stuff got pulled and they didn't know. Kind of like a dead letter of sorts. Like they can't be delivered and they can't return to sender. And then eventually someone buys it, finds it, and then they have it. So that's my guess how they got it. I don't know the backstory and how Big Bad got it, but.
Somebody found in Cincinnati not too terribly long ago, let's just say in the last 10-ish years, somebody found new stock of vintage Star Wars figures, like shippers full of like Darth Vader. Just like, holy shit, that's crazy that they found like just a shipping container, or not shipping container, the shipper box of these. And it wasn't just Vader, it was like multiple characters, 12 backs. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
I used to fantasize and dream about finding, like, I'm going to go somewhere and find vintage Star Wars toys. And you're like, well, around here, because I didn't know this at the time, around here they're everywhere. And you can, like, I was able to find $5 vintage Star Wars figures in the early 2000s. And with an accessory. It wasn't uncommon. I would go to this place called the Earth Toy Mall. It was the coolest place ever. It was just a vintage toy store, but it was set up in like a weird walking rotation where, like, if you liked Star Wars, then you would go and look at everything and come around. But if you didn't like StarArs, and like say you were into, I don't know, dolls or shit, you went the middle way and it took you around the store and you came to this like really cool converging point in the back where you could get all these collectibles. But because it was in Cincinnati, they had access to all this vintage Star Wars stuff, including like the production drawings. You would see like the wax molds of like the Han Solo and Carbonite, like all of this crazy stuff that was made in the production of the toys would be at this store. And so, you know, super cheap prices. It's a weird thing to say. It's like living in a coastal area and getting cheap shrimp or cheap lobster. You know, in Cincinnati, you got cheap Star Wars toys from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, and that's I'm the same way. Like I always have like these fantasies of like I'll be driving through some like, I don't know, forgotten backwoods town with a population of 10 people, and there'll be some drugstore that has like mint stuff from the 80s. There's like, yeah, we've been trying to move this stuff for years, but we haven't had a kid in this town for 30 years.
That happens because, I shit you not, I just saw somebody post on Facebook the other day. They were driving through an old town and they had these like some Terminator 3 toys or whatever they were, these really overpriced NECA or something figures that go for like ridiculous amounts today. They found them for retail just sitting on a shelf, like driving through some town. I was like, oh, that stuff does happen. Not to me though.
Oh man, like I'm not necessarily a fan of NECA, but it's like just that's always I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time believing those stories because there's always like in these Facebook groups they'll be like, oh, like some person will post like a photo of their trunk open, just full of toys. They'd be like, yeah, my childhood grandma's neighbor or whatever had these in her attic, and they're all like mint and everything else. You're like, how? But Scott Cumming says he loves the series of chats. He was visiting his parents recently, going through old photos and seeing all of his old toys, took him straight back, just like the stream does. And Scott, I appreciate that. That is the whole point. It's to try and recapture some of these old memories and just to have a good time running down memory lane. And World Made Cardboard, thank you, sir. He says, I actually had money during the 90s and bought a bunch of Megazords. You lucky person, you having money during the 90s.
Dude, that Megazord toy, that's, you know, ethically, oh, that's not ethically, that's a really weird, extreme way to say it, but like, I have this weird standard that I won't go underneath with that Lightning collection, because everyone wants, or sorry, the Legacy collection, and any of these really, these new modern Power Ranger toy lines where they're like, the Megazord, they want to sell the cheap kids version, and it's like, then you compare the old one and you're like, well, this is a collector's. I'm like, no, there was no collector's market for Power Rangers. This really deluxe one with all the moving parts and all the the combining shit, that was for kids. I refuse to like accept a worse version than the original. Like, I'm not going to buy a Star Wars figure that looks less like a Star Wars character than a vintage figure, and I'm not going to buy a Megazord or any Power Ranger toy that's lesser than an original one. Like, that's why I can't do a lot of this Hasbro Power Ranger stuff, because it's like the old stuff looked better, and it was $5, and you could even get it relatively like new for cheaper than the Hasbro version. So it's such a weird, like, I have a paradox dilemma with the Power Rangers toys from Hasbro, clearly.
No, I get it. It's especially like I got the full team of the original Mighty Morphin, so I'm set with my team. I don't need any more. I'll pick up the monsters if I see them, but they only have like I think 3 right now, which is like Sphinx, Pumpkin Wrapper, and Eyeball or whatever his name was.
Eye Guy.
Eye Guy, yeah.
I have Goldar, the original release.
Yeah, Goldar, yeah, with the wings, which made no sense to re-release them without wings. What the hell?
Okay, I'll say this since we're talking about this now. I'm of a mind that the Lightning Collection Power Ranger toys are based off the American crappier footage, because they're chunky figures. They have all these ugly wrinkles. The figures are it's like American Power Rangers. And I know there's no conspiracy. There's nothing with contracts. What I'm trying to add is levity to a fact. I think the toys look like crap, because everything about the Power Rangers, these toys lack, like that weird, like uniformity that they can strike with the poses and the fighting and this and that. It's like these toys just miss out on everything that make Power Rangers Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm. No,
but
that makes sense, especially because they're supposed to be wearing spandex.
Yeah, that's like I brought up my SH Figure Arts ones.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I still consider the gold standard for Power Rangers figures. Like, I know you're not a fan of what is it? Who did I buy? Super 7. Dude, I bought those because holy shit, Power Rangers, and I can get a Tyrannosaurus figure. Anyway, I'm a mark for Power Rangers. But outside of the SH Figure Arts, like anything that doesn't look like the spandex is wrong to me. Like trying to over design and over engineer. Like, I get it. Oh, we don't want it to look like a plain figure, but they're just in shiny costumes that hug their little bodies. Like, and they're also played by Japanese stuntmen. Like, don't make them American-sized, big, buff dudes. I don't know. I guess I'm such a fan of this shit, and I want everything to look the way it does, that any deviation is just enough for me not to buy it anymore.
Yeah, agreed. So real quick, I have 2 final kind of normal questions, because there's something I wanted to bring up. You know what? Well, we'll bring it up, and then I'll come back to the questions, because they can be asked anytime. So speaking about like the super buff proportions, which I just want to do this real quick, because this is my childhood. Okay. So it's almost like they didn't learn anything from Power of the Force 2, making things super buff. Now that line of figures, like the super buff Han Solo and what do they call it? The monkey Leia.
Oh yeah.
They get shit on all the time, but I know that you and I have a very big soft spot for them.
Oh yeah.
Because that was new on the big for us. That was Star Wars like it. And we talked about it very briefly early on when you mentioned I just want them to do what they do in the show. And that's why I had such a hard time playing with like Luke and Darth Vader, is because they couldn't hold their lightsaber with 2 hands.
Yep.
And to this day, it bugs me when I get a Black Series and they have to hold it like a baseball bat.
I don't really buy many Star Wars figures that would have lightsabers anymore. I've kind of, moved away from that. But as a kid, it irked me that you couldn't have 2-handed lightsaber duels. That's literally the only reason I ever played with my Star Wars Episode 1 figures, is because Obi-Wan and Darth Maul could hold their lightsabers like in the movie, relatively speaking. Right. And it looked and felt like I was in the movie. As a kid, I was a Han Solo fanatic as a child. Still am. He's my favorite of the characters. But it irked me that you couldn't put his gun in his holster. But I got over that one. But it bothered me that I couldn't fly the ship with them both on the cockpit because of his beefy demeanor. And Chewbacca, forget it. Chewbacca sits in the cockpit by himself because he's so big you have to put his legs over each divider. and Han sits in the gunner seat. Like, those were the follies of those toys for me, like not getting the accuracy. It's like, I'd love to reenact this scene, but I can't.
Yep. And that's just I have him hanging out back here, which Pursuing Paranormal, aka Cody, saw earlier was Kiadi Mundi. So that was just to kind of harken back to a topic I was breaching but hadn't quite fully brought up, was the obscure characters that had like no background yet, and how we had to like use our imagination to create a story for these people.
Oh yeah.
Like Kiadi Mundi, I remember the thing. So I like Kiadi Mundi regardless, but the reason why he's on the table is because, let me pull him back out so you can see what I'm talking about. He was the first one I ever saw that had a purple lightsaber. Like before Mace Windu and all that kind of. Because Mace Windu, if I'm not mistaken, I think I have him on card, maybe. Somewhere.
I think he had a blue lightsaber, right? Yeah. The toy, the first one.
He had a blue one. Yep. He had a blue lightsaber, and then he got his purple lightsaber for episode 2, and his lightsaber hilt changed, and it bothered people so much that they went into it was a comic book maybe, or one of the books, I guess, and they said that he and another Jedi had swapped lightsabers for a mission, and that's why he had a blue lightsaber as a toy on the first episode 1. So I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's I don't know. I think having certain toys like that helped a lot in childhood, because it was nice to have just a kind of like a blank figure to kind of imprint on and make your own story for. And that's how you end up liking these characters, and they get their own stories later. Like Quinlan Voss, for example. But so there was something that I've talked about with other people before, and it's bath time toys. So I discovered, at least as thinking back through my memories, that once a toy became a bath time toy, it stayed in or around the tub. Like, it didn't leave the bathroom.
Oh.
And I don't know if you had that experience or not.
I had a rule. Mom had one rule with bathtub toys. My mom had like one rule, really. There was nothing with screws because of the rust. So bath time toys were Batman without his cape, or James Bond Jr., because there was a scuba James Bond Jr. So any basic plastic action figure was a bath time toy to a degree. I don't know how long I did. One of my favorite bath toys wasn't even mine. It was at my aunt's house. It was my cousin's G.I. Joe boat, but I thought it was so cool because it floated and had seats. And so it was kind of neat to just play with it in the bathtub. And then, here we go. Talking about grandmas and toys. Pirates of Darkwater. My grandma, for some reason, liked that design, but she bought me that toy line. Like the ship and the characters, all of it. And that was a long time bathtub toy. That might have been the one that was the most value, because it was like, I only watched that cartoon for a small period of time, but when I got into the bathtub, I was surrounded by the dark water and I had to bring out everybody and play with them. So,
hell yeah, that's the bathtub toys for me mostly. And looking back, they're fucking gross. Were like toy sharks and things like that. Things that got water in them and eventually grew mold in them because of that.
Ooh.
But that's like Hydro Man here, which is actually my childhood Hydro Man, for obvious reasons, was a bath time toy. And when I found him, he's been cleaned since then, but the entire bottom of this was covered in mold.
Ooh.
So I had to take all these screws out, which they're not too bad. You can see some rust on them, but I had to unscrew the bottom and just scrub that with a magic eraser and Clorox and hydrogen, like everything. I gave it the full treatment. So,
random comment to make. When when the Toy Biz Marvel figures, like that style of articulation, that like felt like so, I don't know, ahead of its time. Just the basic knees and elbows. Because remember how many toys you'd get that had like bendable knees but not elbows, or vice versa? Like, it was weird. But those figures always just had like a little more articulation, and I always thought it was like, it made them a little more special, if that makes sense.
It lended itself to more, I guess, it expounded the boundaries of playtime, because it wasn't like Cyborg Spider-Man back here, which you can hardly see. is the only spider, well, not the only, but it's like the one I have from my childhood. So he's missing pretty much everything. But
Did you get the new one?
I did.
It's a good looking figure. I can't fault you.
It is. I wasn't sold on it, and then I saw it and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll get it.
I can't get the hot toy.
Oh yeah, but like you were saying, like bendable ankles and all that, like on a Toy Biz figure, was this from 95, 96? If I can find his little date stamp. But it's 1998. It looks like, no, 96. I don't know. My old man eyes don't work as well as they used to. So, man,
there was like a weird reset because remember that Cyclops you showed, the one that you were disappointed with, the Apocalypse.
Yeah,
that figure was like the end of the original style. Like it evolved into that crap, and then it got this weird reset because that style of Spider-Man, or there was another one called like not Web Warriors, but it was Spider-Man. He came with a web glider, and it was cool because it came with real string. This was shit that I miss in toys. Oh man, because Spider-Man can't make webs with the figure, but the kinds that came with rope apparatuses, like the movie came with this really awesome gargoyle that you could like screw onto the thing, any surface really, and then press the button and it would like zip line Spider-Man up.
Yep.
But this one that I'm talking about with the improved style of articulation, dude, it was awesome. It was these two things, and you could go across the room, and then you put Spider-Man on this glider, and it would like, I think you wound it up, and he would like slide on a glider and move up. It was neat. But the figure had so much articulation, it was neat. It had the ankle, though, that moved forward. It had like, even its wrists were articulated, which was weird because it was the first figure I had. It had like that style of wrist joint, the modern ones that you can pop in and out.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know why it stood out to me, but that was one of those like next step Toy Biz figures right before they got into making the movie figures. And there was a point where Toy Biz, dude, they were making the best looking toys out there.
Hell yeah, that's and speaking of Toy Biz and articulation, Greg Fenstad brings up one of our favorites. It was a super articulated Spider-Man.
Yep.
I remember to this day when he broke on me, like whatever, I think it was like an O-ring or whatever held him together in the middle.
Yeah.
Snapped. My mom used to drag me to church every Sunday and Wednesday and Thursday for choir practice and Monday for Bible study and everything else. And as a kid does, not really interested in your board. So I would bring a toy with me. And I brought that Spider-Man with me because he would climb on the pews and do whatever Spider-Man does during church. And I think the sermon had just started, and he just broke into like 3 different pieces. And that was a rough Sunday. That was a rough Sunday.
Did you have this was the first release one, right? With the tiny head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
tiny head,
huge torso.
Yeah, I played with that one until it broke. Now, did you get the version they made for the 90s cartoon?
I don't think so, no.
So I had one of those as a kid as well. That became my favorite Spider-Man figure of that era. And so years later, mine fell apart, but the O-ring didn't snap. It like came unhooked somehow. So I had all the pieces, and I used to store it on my shelf, and I got, like bummed out. I'm like, man, I really want a new one. And it was like, I was still in college, selling a little bit of artwork, didn't really have much money, but I went to the Cincinnati Comic Expo, and the guy had a box of like figures, and he's like, $2 for everything in there. And there was one, and I brought it because the box, it fell off the card, but I still have one of these I just brought out, the 90s cartoon version with nice tight joints. He's just a little dusty, but he's like new, so I like him. This is my favorite animated series figure.
Absolutely, and I think I don't know if we're unanimous in it, but I'm pretty sure we both know what the worst one was. And that was the one with all the suction cups.
Dude, the early Toy Biz stuff missed the mark. Again, I love what I do, but if I could, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But another job I would really enjoy would be like the guy who makes all the decisions for a toy company that owns the properties that I like. Like, I'd like to be king of Hasbro. People are like, oh, Hasbro. No, if I was king of Hasbro, it'd be a little different. But I detested any of those aesthetic choices to try to make a figure do more. Nightcrawler, Spider-Man, Oh, they were ugly. Because you know what it looked like? It looked like those Garfields that people would hang in their car.
Mm-hmm. And it made it impossible to fight with.
Yeah, you couldn't play with it.
Yep. It was all gimmick based, which I think we've pretty well established that gimmicks are fine as long as the play is not reliant on that gimmick. Like, it's not centered around like, oh, it's I don't know. Like,
let me give you an example. Web shooter Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Got a big play feature, but you can move his arm all the way around. He's still got a jointed arm here and jointed legs. So for a minute, this was my main Spider-Man the Animated Series figure because this, I think, was one of the first ones. So, you know, boom, Spider-Man would shoot his little web, pull it back. It's neat. It looks like the little poster. But overall, though, the ones that killed, like you said, that killed the play feature, they're like useless toys.
Mm-hmm. That's because that's all you can do with them. That's
yeah.
It. So that's because I have this big armor Spider-Man back here who was, for some reason, this was my, like, I loved this version of Spider-Man. I still do. So one of my favorites, and I think he only appeared in like
one issue.
Yeah, one issue and one, maybe 2 episodes of the animated series when it was with Adam Webb.
Yeah, it's not called Into the Spider-Verse, but essentially Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, because he's like not the Tony Stark, but he's like a millionaire, and he's a celebrity in that version or something. But
did I tell you I'm Facebook friends with the guy that created that armor?
Really?
Yeah, I won't say his name. He's a comic book artist. You guys could look him up. But we're just Facebook friends. We're not like buddy. We just talk every once in a while, like happy birthday, and that's it. But yeah, it's weird. I've always wanted to ask him more about the armor, but that shit gets destroyed, dude, right away. Remember? It gets frozen and broken.
Mm-hmm.
But perfect example of things that were different then than now. That armor appears in like a book, but there's figures of it in every wave. It's in the Spider-Man video game based on the cartoon. And at that time, that armor didn't even appear in the cartoon. That game is from, I think, 95. And the episode you're talking about is the last 2 episodes of the series, and that show ends in 98. So, this was a weirdly manufactured version of Spider-Man that actually has no value outside of one appearance. But it's awesome, and they keep bringing it back, and I'm happy they do. But the more I talk about it, the more I realize we just got sold a product, and it had really, no impact in the books.
Yep. And that's, I think I speak for everybody, that I just want one more episode where he finds Mary Jane.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just one, because that was like the worst cliffhanger of all time. Not of all time, but it was pretty fucking rough when you were a kid. It's like, you found Mary Jane, and then the next episode's like the first one again because of syndication. You're like, wait a second.
What'd I miss?
Yeah.
I tried to get into Spider-Man Unlimited. I quit. I hate that show.
So, one last of the normal questions, and then we'll start delving into other topics here.
Cool.
Inside versus outside. Did you have any designated, these are for outside, these are only played with inside, or what was your kind of your decision-making process on that?
It all depended on what the toys did. So, for example, Power Rangers were inside toys always because, they fought outside, but if I was outside, I wanted to do karate and flip around and try to be like a Power Ranger. So Power Rangers toys were inside only. Now, Star Wars toys, it depended because we had an above-ground pool, and in the beginning, you dig the ground out, and then you put a ton of sand in. So for the couple of weeks when we're getting sand, I used to take my Star Wars figures. I actually lost the Han Solo out in the sand, my original regular Han from A New Hope, the one you sent me a replacement for.
Yep.
I had lost that one in the backyard in the sand years and years ago. But Star Wars toys, if they were on Tatooine, they would go to the backyard sandy area. If the toys, I got the AT-AT Walker in 97, so on a snowy day, the AT-AT Walker would go outside. And I didn't have the snow speeder, but the Walker did, and then I'd take a TIE Fighter or some shit. But, and I took toys with me everywhere as a kid, but usually the rule of thumb that my mom kind of set up, but I just ran with, was leave the accessories inside. So it's if you want to take Han Solo and so outside, fine, but leave the guns inside because you'll lose them. They're small. And so that just resonated with me. Same with Power Rangers. She'd let me take, oh, Jeffrey, you want to take a toy with you today? Yeah, I want to take Billy. All right, make sure you take his gun out. And then the gun would just sit with the other Power Rangers. And then when I'd come home, the gun would be there. We'd put it back together. And that's just how outside, inside toys work. Plus, I was an only child. And like I said, the neighborhood wasn't the best. So a lot of play was done inside. And I was lucky I had a Super Nintendo and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, your mom knew what she was doing. Because just like the old South Park meme, like as soon as I opened a box, I was like, the accessories are gone.
Well, you know what it was? I'll tell a story about my mom real quick. My mom loved Barbie dolls. She was a huge Barbie doll enthusiast in the 60s because my mom's the same age as the doll. Like 1959, the doll comes out. My mom's born the same year. So she knows, because my grandpa was a dick. He had thrown out her toys and destroyed stuff, this, that, and the other. So my mom knew what it was like to have your stuff stolen or destroyed or taken. And so she kind of kept that feeling and basically taught me how to avoid that, I guess, crushing disappointment. I know that's kind of a dark story to tell it in this way, but it really was just something that I guess impacted her. And so she helped me avoid making those mistakes.
Yeah. You know what your mom got for her childhood? A crushed soul.
Oh, God,
Step Brothers references.
Yeah, dude, I showed that to Jesse for the first time last year. We're strongly considering going to Catalina for my birthday.
Well, I mean, it is the Catalina wine mixer, so
it's the number one helicopter racing event in the Northern Hemisphere.
That's right. So, I lost my train of thought just now. That's okay.
Happens to me all the time, man.
Yeah. So there was something that you and I had reminisced about. I think it was last year, holiday season time, where the old J.C. Penney's, Montgomery Ward's, all those catalogs that grandmas would get. And I remember as a kid, they'd show up, and it was this annual thing. Before I knew what Black Friday was or anything like that, Thanksgiving, all the aunts, uncles, and all that, we'd all go to grandma's house, and we'd have a feast for all of us. And there'd just be a fat stack of these catalogs on the table. And my grandma would they'd hand them to me and my sister, my brother, or whatever, and we'd just go lay on our bellies and watch TV and just flip through them like ravenous dogs and just circle in black marker what we wanted. And then eventually it became color coded. It was black for things that we like, and then red for things that we need or want or whatever. And it was just this whole thing. Then they'd collect them, and they'd just scurry off to the stores the day after Thanksgiving. And usually we'd be stuck at home or at grandma's playing Game Boy, doing whatever. And I pulled up some of these photos. So we're going to go, I don't know if these are in order or not, but we're going to go just kind of one by one, I guess. And we're going to look at some of these.
When story you just told, I could see that story. I lived that, going to my aunt's house and always having the catalogs there, but that excitement, I think everyone got to experience that. And I know we're old man yelling at a cloud right now, but getting the newspaper catalog is so much better than just looking at it on a tablet or a phone or your computer.
Mm-hmm.
You would obsess over that stuff too. That big toy book from Toys R Us each year. Oh
yeah. And that's what we're about to look at. Cause I can't describe it, but they had a smell to them.
Yes.
There was something about holding it, even though it was a piece of paper, tangibly holding it, and you could look at it and just try to imagine the details in it. So here's our first page that we're going to look at.
Yes.
With some old Power Rangers, which I've got, I think, that same Zed and that Billy, because this is the talking Billy. So.
Okay, so obviously this is a little later in the Power Rangers run because we got the Ninja Zord and stuff. But Power Rangers, it's weird, as they got more popular, this must have been a hell of a sale, because I vividly remember the 8-inch Power Ranger figures were $10.99, and then they went to $12.99 in the first weird season, because my cousin broke my original Blue Ranger. I'm not mad, honestly, but she took the arm and kept swinging it, and it fucked up the joint. So I had my mom was like, "Mom, I need a new one," and they had gone up in price. I don't remember the Power Ranger toys being $10. Shit, this Toys R Us is a great deal. They were way more.
And I like that the the Power Ranger that the White Ranger is like a warning of things to come because he doesn't have his armor.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh yeah, because that's what mine looked like after a certain point. Just no
I
armor.
still have I even have a couple broken shields, but I have I didn't bring it, but I do have a my original White Ranger is like mint still with his shield and everything. But the talking one was better because it was really Tommy's voice.
Right. Yeah, that's I don't mind the talking gimmick so much. The thing, because the first one I ever got was I got Jason, the Red Ranger. That was my first Power Ranger ever, and it was that that time before they started adding like the punching and the kicking gimmicks, and they hadn't got the talking yet.
Yep, I have Karate Chop and Billy and Jason, but I didn't really like those, and I already had the regular ones, so it was kind of like, hey, thanks for these toys. I'm just gonna play with these other ones still.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's pull up our next one here because I think we have like 8 of them to get through. So again, I don't think these are in like numerical order by page. Just kind of numbered them, but this is one that I absolutely love.
Yeah, God, toys are. This is sarcastic, but I weep for the kids that don't get to experience Toys R Us. Oh my God, it shows up in the mail, and then the possibilities and the counting down. I remember like the anticipation for a birthday, because the way it worked for me, it was like I would have an idea of what I wanted, and then I'd have to go to school and have the day, and then I'd get the toy at night and play with it, and then that feeling of going to bed and waking up to the toy the next morning, and then the anticipation of getting home from school. It was like this waiting that there was like the waiting part of the toy made it better, if that makes sense. Like, not to sound like an old man yelling at a cloud again, but the instant gratification takes away from the experience because you have a chance to want and to fantasize about these things. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what it's like to make the land speeder float. And you just would dream about what it's like, and then you get it, and it lives to the hype. You know, if you see something that's cool, you get it, you play with it for 5 minutes, and it goes away. That's why we like build these things up the way we do.
Yeah, that was and Greg just real quick says Gargoyles and Star Wars on one page. Oh my fucking God, yeah, it was a sweet time to be alive.
An embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, and Collector Express says the newsprint smell definitely has 100%. Like there was just something about it, like. Because you'd get it and you'd stare at these photos and just be like you said, like you had that time to build up the hype. But like now it's like, oh, it gets announced, and then we pre-order, and then we wait for it to show up, and there's something to be said for pre-ordering versus hunting for your toys. But it's like that. I don't like to call it hunting. I like to call it just a series of disappointment because there's almost no point in hunting anymore. Because it's just there's nothing on the pegs anymore. But it was like this stuff, like you saw it, and then you're like, you didn't know what you were gonna get because you're like, oh, like, am I gonna get this for Christmas? Am I not gonna get it? And like you build up all that hype in your head, and just it was.
Now I know this is crazy, but do you remember back in the day when you could actually go in and find an entire toy line? Like, we'll just use the Star Wars for example.
That has never happened. That is a Mandela effect. That has never happened. We're all just crazy, right?
I guess so, because I just remember like one day you go in and like, I'm going to pick up Han Solo, and you get Han, and then it's like you can get Han later. Like the way the toys work, it's like if you don't get it that one time, it never appears again. So you don't ever get like a toy line. Because, for example, this beautiful Iron Man that you told me how much you love, the new one, the modular armor, right? That's its name. Mm-hmm. I love it too. I'm holding it in my hand. If I didn't pick it up the second I saw it, I would never get a chance to find it. Like, distribution also kills like that good feeling of wanting to get the entire set, that sense of completion. Like they make it difficult to buy more of their product.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I was, for those that didn't pick up on it, I was being facetious. Like I distinctly remember being like, oh, like you get, I don't know, $5 for your birthday, $10 for your birthday, whatever. Like, I want to go to the store and get this, and you'd show up and it would just fucking be there.
Yep.
But now, yeah, there's only been a handful of times where I was like, I saw something on a peg, and I wanted it and never saw it again. And that was usually with like Irwin Dragon Ball Z. That happened a lot just because Dragon Ball Z wasn't like a super popular toy line, at least where I was from.
Same.
So it's like if you saw it once, you better get it right then because you're not going to see it again because they're probably going to get one per state. But really, really quick, Greg Finstad asks if we knew about the Macy's and Toys R Us coming back. I did hear about that they're going to make basically a Toys R Us little department inside of Macy's. Someone, I forget where I saw this, but I guess there's not even 400 Macy's in the U.S. Like some of those Macy's are inside of like a Bloomingdale's or something. So I don't know how that's going to work. And if I had to wager a guess, it's probably going to be like toddler toys inside of there. I don't think it's going to be like our kind of stuff.
I heard about this. I wonder if it's like a federated department thing because federated departments is like the big like conglomerate, I think, that owns a lot of these places, and Macy's and Bloomingdale's might be owned by them. So it might just be both locations. I got to look into it more, but I'm with you, dude. I think it's just going to be a bunch of like dumb, trendy Christmas toys, and like you'll get like one shelf of Marvel Legends, and it's like the Spider-Man Homecoming wave, and you're like, why is this still out here? And it's like, it's kind of like Ollie's, and then it'll die. Sorry to be so negative, folks.
No, it's all good. And Scott Cumming brings up something, and to me, sir, this is not an unpopular opinion. He says he thinks that the Power of the Force vehicles are better than the vintage, and by and large, I have to agree with you.
Same. They're the same molds done accurately.
Now, they sacrifice sound in all of them, or at least most of them, but I'm okay with that because
they only sacrifice it in the TIE Fighter.
I thought they did. And then they had it in the X-Wing.
Oh yeah, the X-Wing. See, that's weird. This X-Wing is a little different. The real one is not this. The real one has different colored guns. R2-D2 is actually there. This is a weird prototype photo that they used for the ad, but 100% sure the X-Wing had sound. It had two different sounds because when you pressed R2-D2, it made the S-foil opening sound, which sounded like, I think, like a flyby or something. But underneath it had a little gray button that was the actual gun sound effect from the movie. So it was more accurate across the board. The Falcon had 4 sounds instead of that little shit.
Right.
And then, only the TIE Fighter of the original wave was sacrificed in terms of electronics.
Yeah, the most memories I have of the Millennium Falcon was the carrying case, because that was the Millennium Falcon that I used. But
so, did I ever tell you my Millennium Falcon story?
I remember I sent you one and you told a story, but the only thing I remember was you running up and down the stairs with it.
So the way I got the Falcon, I learned about how Christmas worked very early on. Long story short, Christmas '96 was my first Star Wars Christmas, and I wanted the Millennium Falcon. And it was weird. My mom had gotten remarried, so it was kind of like they had to give us the same amount of money for Christmas. And so we had a finite amount for the first time ever. I'm like, shit, how does this work? Well, it wasn't too much of a problem. Long story short is, I was at Toys R Us, and their Millennium Falcon was $54.99, and I was almost positive it was cheaper at a store called Service Merchandise. So I went to the section. I called it Toys R Us as a child. They got confirmation, and then they price matched for me at Toys R Us. So I basically price matched my own Christmas present at 8 years old. That's how much I wanted the toy. Like, I wasn't willing to sacrifice like another figure. I had to get it cheaper so I could get all of it.
Making moves out there.
Yeah, man. I'm dedicated. When I want something, I'll make it happen.
Hell yeah. That's so real quick, Collector Express, before we move on to the next page. He says, I was surprised to see that modular Iron Man at all 3 of his local Walmarts. Spot 2 just did a review on it. It's his favorite. And I agree. Like, to me, when I think of Iron Man, there it is. It's so beautiful, too. Especially next to the War Machine. Holy crap.
Yeah, dude, War Machine is back in the box. I pulled out that 80th anniversary Iron Man just to compare because I thought that was a really nice figure itself. This one beats it. Whatever type of plastic they're using for this figure, which is like a little different. Obviously, it's like a lighter but clinkier plastic. It's less gummy. I like it. This Iron Man, I don't want to be like that guy, but it's got the pinless for the most part. It doesn't look out of place with my high-end Spider-Man.
Absolutely. So here we go. Here's page number 3. Just to kind of talk about Godzilla again.
I had that, dude. When I talk about Street Sharks, I had that stupid truck. That's the one toy I had from it.
Mm-hmm. It was I don't remember their names. I think one's called like Ripster, and I think there's something called Slamoo or something like that. Like I remember a couple of names, but I couldn't tell you who's who. But I did have the great white shark with the cowboy boots.
That was the coolest looking design.
Mm-hmm. It was. Never saw the show as a kid, but I had him. I had the one I had that had the rollerblades right above him. Mine was like this metallic blue color.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a giant hand puppet of the whale shark next to him.
So this is a 1995 catalog, I'm guessing.
95 or 96, I think, one of the two.
Well, is it the same catalog we were looking at? Is this the next page over?
Next page, I'm not sure. But
well,
I see the Yellow Ranger on the far left, so I think it's the same catalog.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Because then, okay, so this has to be Christmas '95 then, because they're promoting the Thunder Zord and the Ninja Zord, but this is the remote control one. The remote control Zords always came out the following year. Mm-hmm. So I'm just mentally trying to place where this is, because I'm looking at this is the guy from Stretch Armstrong. He's the bad guy.
Yep.
We got Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I'm just trying to remember when all of these things were popular at once.
Mm-hmm. And that Vac Man that he's holding reminds me. I told this story once before and on a previous stream, and it was one of those like disappointed toys kind of stories. And that's the thing I was thinking of. I couldn't remember what it was called. I wanted, because they did a whole series of Vac Men. And they had like these, basically they were filled with beads, and you'd suck all the air out of them and they'd stretch, and then it was a weird thing. But I wanted one so bad. And as kids are, they're bratty and snotty and annoying and all that kind of crap. I was begging for one, and my mom had some kind of like Christmas gathering, gift exchange, something or other. I don't really remember now. I remember the event, not so much the circumstances around it. And all the kids that attended, like all the kids that were there, like were cousins, whatever that we were. We all got a gift, and I saw it. Like I saw them all wrapped up and all that. And I was all excited, and probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, and whenever these things came out. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a Vac Man. It's going to be a Vac Man. And I just remember getting it, opening it up, and it was a coloring book and a box of crayons. Now, if you've ever seen a Vac Man on card, there's no way the two could have been confused. But in my brain, it's, magic. And I remember being devastated and being upset because kids are bratty and annoying. And then for Christmas, which was like a couple weeks later, I actually got a Vac Man, and the toy was terrible. It was awful.
I was going to say, you and I must have like alternate versions of the same childhood, because I actually have a similar story about another toy on this page. It's that Street Sharks truck. Mm-hmm. I wanted the Mortal Kombat MK1. It was Reptile's boat. And I was so convinced my aunt was getting me this. I was like, I'm going to get Reptile's boat. I kept remember seeing the commercial with the Mortal Kombat music. I'm like, the MK1, I got to get it. And I got that thing, and it was just, because I even, like, the boxes were big, and I was like, oh my God, here it is. And it was this. And I was just like, what is this? It was weird. Because this was the only toy I played with aggressively, because it was like, it was a big toy, because the Street Sharks could ride inside of it, and like a springy jaw, and I used to like use it to eat other toys. So I guess I had fun with it in hindsight, but it's just weird. The same page, we have a similar experience.
Oh yeah, that's it. And that's not the only time. Like when you see something that's wrapped up and you're like, oh, I know what that is, and you open it up and you're like, what the hell? Like, I don't know if you remember, and I cannot remember the official name of the toy line, but it was like sometime in the 90s, like Tarzan made a comeback. And you'd get like these weird like 5 POA like Tarzan toys, and they'd be packaged with someone you've never heard of or whatever. I got like 3 of those for a birthday one year, And every time I went to open it, because I was like, oh, it's going to be a Spider-Man, or it's going to be a Batman, or it's going to be a whatever. And I'd be like, oh, well, more Tarzan. Because it was like every 2-pack was like a version of Tarzan with another person. So I had like 3 Tarzans. And there was one dude, he was like covered in like cheetah print stuff and had like Vega-styled claws or Wolverine.
I'm looking at it right now. It's called Tarzan: The Epic Journey, or The Epic Adventure, whatever.
Yeah, they were not built to play with, because all of mine fell apart.
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't remember this show, but I remember these toys because they were weird. They were bendable toys, and they were like stuff I don't remember. Like here, I'm looking at it right here. Yep, Jungle King, Tarzan, and the Leopard Man. Yep. I remember these.
Yeah, not so great. Not so great.
So, you know, sometimes you have like a false memory or something of toys.
Mm-hmm.
I had for the longest time a false memory, which I thought was a false memory, but then I saw the toy in a different packaging and was realizing I must have just experienced something weird as a kid. So, you know, I mentioned that toy line James Bond Jr.?
Yeah.
It's like on a pink card in America. But as a kid, I remember seeing a figure on a green card and freaking out, thinking, oh my God, what is this? And then for years, I was like, I must have just had a weird memory as a kid. But then I saw, like, the European releases are all on the green cards. So I guess what happened was there was a weird mix-up. But it was just one of those memories that I had as a kid thinking, oh, this must be fake. And no, it was actually a real toy.
Yeah, that I've had that happen a couple of times where it's like, and of course, the time I need to pull it out of the memory bank, I can't fucking think of it. But it's like, I'll have some memory of something, and they'll be like, oh, that's impossible. That was a European release. I'm like, no, I'm 100% sure I had that. And I don't know, maybe it's some you know, kid that their parents were in the service or something, and they were over there, they bought it, and I got it at a yard sale or something. But, so, here's page 4. We have 8 pages, so we're halfway through. Boom.
I want these to end. Yes! Oh my God, give me the top half of this page, please.
Hell yeah. I've actually got Apocalypse right next to me. Oops. Sorry, I thought I had my mic muted. I guess I didn't.
Oh,
my bad.
I'm sitting here in awe. I want everything so bad. Ah.
So, I was trying to avoid the Ziploc baggie sound. I apologize for that. But, oh yeah. So, I see the Blackbird there, or a version of, and there was a kid I knew at school that had like the big version that broke off into 3 sections.
Yep.
And that thing, like, it's one of those toys that, like, I saw it. I probably saw it at KB Toys once or twice, but it was like something I always wanted. And then a friend had it. You know, went over to his house after school, played with it, and like it really wasn't that great. But it was one of those things that was like, I so badly wanted it, I didn't care how shitty it was. Even though I had firsthand experience, like, this thing's really not that cool. But I need it because the X-Men don't have the Blackbird. How do they get to their missions?
That was like me with the Toy Biz Daily Bugle.
Oh my God. So, I don't think you and I have spoken about that, but I have talked about that playset here on the channel before. It was dog shit.
So my grandma used to take me out on weekends because she didn't want to shop by herself. So she would take me to look at the mall and lunch, and then usually would buy me a toy. And one Sunday she took me to KB Toys, and I guess it was on clearance. I got that Spider-Man playset, and I had to be it was in the 1st grade, I remember, because she had just moved, and I remember coming home at night to build it in my new room at the time. So anyway, I just remember getting this. And it was like the Godzilla playset. It sucked.
Yep. That was I got it for my birthday one year. And that thing didn't even last till the end of the day, dude. That thing, because it was like 90% cardboard with a little bit of plastic, no depth to it. And I remember, you remember it was like a water tower that you would put the slime into and you would like trap it in the dumpster. My dumpster was off by like that much. And the slime moved so slow, I was like, I'll just come back to it later. There was no coming back to it later. It was all in that carpet. All in that carpet.
That play feature, like any kind of toy that came with slime or gunk or ooze, that never appealed to me because I hated getting my toys dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, no, I never want to put like if I would have played with, I don't know, the Ghostbusters, I would have been like, no, I'm not going to put the ecto stuff on them.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, what I want to know, Jeff, real quick, is how many of the X-Men up here at the top did you have?
Just Cyclops.
Just like you never had like Apocalypse or Sabretooth or anybody?
No, it was weird. I loved this cartoon, and I watched it every day, but the only toy I wanted was Cyclops. I had the Spider-Man people, and Cyclops would team up with them. But I take it back. I had the earlier versions of some of the characters, so I had brown-suited Wolverine. So I didn't upgrade because I didn't like him that much back then. Now, Wolverine, God, I got every damn Wolverine they make. Mm-hmm. But I had like brown Wolverine and this Cyclops, and then I had Magneto with a removable helmet and something else. But that was like enough. You know, having Cyclops, Wolverine, and Magneto, those were like the main guys. And I didn't care enough about, oh God, this is going to sound terrible. I didn't care about the girls. At the time, I didn't care about Rogue and Jean Grey and Storm. Storm's awesome, but I didn't want their toys.
Well, in your defense, Jean Grey was only good at going, Scott, and then fainting in the cartoon.
I still don't respect that character because of that show.
Yeah. But let's see. So I had Apocalypse. I had Cameron Hodge, who's the yellow guy in the series of figures here. I had Kane, and I think it's Executioner at the very end. Now, those last three, I got at a yard sale. So they didn't have any accessories. I had no idea that they were even X-Men characters. I just had them, and I played with them. Cameron Hodge was really cool. But the thing I'm hung up on at the moment, because English is hard, Hasbro, with your little HasLab, you guys were offering this for Toy Biz had it for $18. What's the deal? I mean, it's basically the same thing looking at it. That's all sarcasm. But yeah, that I had in Collection 2, I didn't have it as a kid, but in Collection 2 I had that Sentinel, and I appreciated it as an adult collector, but as a kid, I don't think I would have enjoyed that very much because the articulation just isn't there.
It's just a hollow body, right, for the most part?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like the whole gimmick was the mutant catching thing. It was basically like a little rip cable. And that was pretty much it. It was pretty big, though.
All those damn action features. They should have never invented them.
Yep. So we got a couple things here. Bjorn Morgensen wants to know if you're watching AEW tonight.
No, I want to, but I'm watching SummerSlam tomorrow. I have AEW tickets for Cincinnati on September 8th, so I'll be at whatever their Dynamite show is then. So if CM Punk returns, cool. Now, real quick, I met CM Punk. He was not that nice, so I'm not a fan anymore. But if he's back, cool. I hope he's there. He was a good wrestler.
You've also met Tony Todd.
Well, I prank called him, so I don't know if he'll like me.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories.
Remind me, just keep hounding me. I found the footage not too long ago. I'll upload it.
Oh my God, that's gotta be funny. I just love that whole story about how the number came to be and all that. It's just funny. So
I'll tell when I meet you in person. There's more to the story. I just don't tell publicly, but I'll tell you.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. So we're on page 5 now, which I think it'll spark some memories because I saw it and I was like, holy! Like I just remembered like this whole phenomenon that happened. Like, and even I got into it. I don't really care for this kind of stuff. Micro Machines.
Man, I had none.
No.
I liked the commercials and I loved playing with the toys like at people's houses. But like my mom wouldn't buy me the Micro Machines Millennium Falcon, but she'd buy me the full size ones. I don't know what it like again, her weird values on certain things. I just never had the micro stuff. She bought me the full size everything, but she thought these were weird.
Yeah, that was Micro Machines it's never anything I ever asked for, but I would get them. Like at Christmas, birthdays, whatever. Like, and it was always like, I think looking back at it, I was really, I was into Mighty Max when I was really young. And I think like somewhere, in the adult brain of my parents, grandma, and all that kind of stuff, they pretty much saw them as the same thing. And so they saw it as like, oh, this big playset that would fold out with like little cars or little people or whatever. So I ended up with like, I had this like kind of gas station thing. I think it's a gas. Maybe it was like a parking garage or whatever, but it would like fold out into different tiers, and it made a little town.
Wait,
But
I know what you're talking about because I remember the commercials, like Micro City Mall or something, or
maybe it like you would have it, and you'd like pull it out and go, and it had like a road that would lead down, and you'd like bring them up with an elevator, and they'd go back down.
Yeah, I think I remember that commercial. It may not be the exact name of whatever I said, but I remember that commercial.
Yep, that's yeah, Micro Machines. It's I don't know. Like I ended up with a few of them, but I was never anything I ever asked for. But Kenny Long says, loving the stream, Jeff. He's a fellow state Spartan or Michigan State Spartan. He's hoping to meet up with you guys at Horror Hound.
Well, Kenny, if you can make it to Horror Hound, awesome. If not, I mean, I still go to Michigan to visit Dion, and we hung out with listeners and fans all over. So Lansing, depending on where you are, man, Lansing is still a place I love to visit.
Oh yeah. So let's see. Pull up the next one. So that was number 5. We're on number 6. So including this one, we have 3 left. Now this one, it's not toys necessarily, but it's very topical to the background I've elected to use for this stream and holds a very, very big spot in my heart. Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
$129, but it comes with Mario All-Stars.
That's the version I had.
Hell yeah.
Oh God, dude! See, some of these prices after coupons, like $62.99. I remember some games being like $79 and $89 in catalogs like this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that because it's like when I think of buying video games when I was younger, I remember video games being like $20, but it was like Super Nintendo games, but the Nintendo 64 was already out, or like PlayStation 1 games, and like they were old. So I have like this weird kind of cognitive dissonance where it's like, man, these new games are $60. Games in my day were $20, but clearly that wasn't the case.
I had a weird moment in the whatever the generation is with the Xbox 360 when games went from $49 to $59. That for some reason that $10 jump stuck with me. I'm like, oh, I'm paying so much more. Now, by the time you add on DLC, you're paying like $89 for a video game, and I'm like, this is what it feels like to get stroked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, and I'm afraid to even see what those prices are with inflation. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I guess they say gaming is like the most economic whatever entertainment. Like it's been the cheapest or the cost has stayed the lowest in terms of what you get with inflation. So I've read that somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that tracks. Like if you, because what was that? Mortal Kombat 3, $52.99. Donkey Kong Country, $47.99, and that's an old game by that point for that console. Killer Instinct, $52.99, and you look at a game now, $59.99 is pretty standard, you know. So it's really like it hasn't got with inflation. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do the math on it, but I'd say prices. Who the hell is going to pay $62.99 for Batman Forever?
That game is garbage. I had a friend named Andrew Birding, and that kid had that game. And I felt so bad for him because he was so pumped, and we played it, and it blew.
Isn't it just a beat 'em up?
It's a bad beat 'em up, and you have to use like Mortal Kombat control inputs to do the moves.
Ugh. Gross.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I don't know. I love Super Nintendo, and Epic Badger actually brings up kind of what I went through. He says we always got our consoles later, so games were affordable until the 64 parents bought. That year it came out and had to spend a year on Star Fox 64. No complaints, loved his time with it. And that's pretty much how I was. I got my Super Nintendo. I still have it. I can see it from here. It's my childhood Super Nintendo. My brother gave that to me, but by the time I got it, Nintendo 64 had been out for a while. And by the time I got my own Nintendo 64, GameCube came out the very next year. So I've always been like almost a full generation behind when I got my game consoles.
I was similar. When it came to toys, Mom spared no expense. When it came to games, they were cheap because some of them are hard. You lose interest. I understand where she was coming from the value standpoint. So I got a Super Nintendo in '94. So, it's 3 years old at that point, that Super Mario set. And a lot of my Super Nintendo games were a couple years old, $20 games like Aladdin or Street Fighter II Turbo after a newer edition had come out. It wasn't until the N64, which I ended up getting in '98, so that's 2 years into the generation. That was the first console that I got where the games were still new and full priced. And then I was just, at that age, my mom realized, oh, you play with video games more than you do toys. So toys never went away fully. They just took a back seat to games, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, video game, I think it's I wouldn't say it's like a maturity thing, but I think there's like, I talked about it with Ryan. I called it the age of shame. And it's like you feel a little embarrassed to play with toys after a certain age, but video games are still in that kind of gray area, or at least back then, because it was like video games were still relatively new compared to like now. So it was like, oh, you're a teenager, you should be wasting your time on those video games. But now it's like there are adults in their 30s, 40s that play video games regularly. So I think that stigma's pretty much gone away. But
yeah, when that age of shame popped up for me, it was about Spider-Man 2 era. So I would buy toys and I would just kind of take them and never talk about them. Like I wouldn't tell people in school that I was getting action figures and shit because I had enough problems with some of these people. So the last thing I'm going to do is invite, hey, I play with toys. It's like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But gaming was a rite of passage for a minute. That was kind of the first social thing because toys were a very personal thing. I had friends that had similar tastes in toys, but because of, being an only child, a lot of those toy memories were singular. It's like me with all the Power Rangers in the living room, or me, taking Batman on an adventure. It wasn't really even Star Wars, which I had a friend that brought his toys over once or twice. It was always me with those things. But when I got into it, it was, oh man, now I could play games with my buddies and we can have, birthday parties where we take turns. There was a year where I had a birthday party where I only invited 3 other friends just so we'd have enough controllers for video games nonstop all night. And then I made a mistake and invited one more dude. So I let him play with my brand new Game Boy Color. I was like, here, you can play with, or sorry, it wasn't brand new. It was new, but I had Pokemon Yellow that day. I was like, you can play this when you don't get to play the Nintendo. So it was a weird window where gaming was life. But I think just a few years into it, I found that perfect blend of like, who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm. Now, this next one, I don't really have much experience with. I mean, I see the Game Boy, but there's like Sega, and what caught my eye on it was the Tiger Electronics.
Oh, God, those were terrible, man.
Mm-hmm. I had a Star Wars one, and I had a couple, because it seemed like every birthday I'd get one, and they were impossible to play. The controls were never, there was never, it wasn't like the same tiger to tiger. It was like you can see here, like there's whatever that one is. Madden has like 2 D-pads, and then there's like the one that's catty-cornered to that has 2 directionals that are like left and right, up and down. It was just they were impossible to play, and the noises they made were atrocious.
They're ugly. I remember the commercials were great, and the reason I never wanted one is because my cousin, the same cousin I keep bringing up, who had the Mighty Ducks and the Warriors of Virtue, he would get, it was weird, like they would get the new trendy toys, and they wouldn't really give a shit about them, and then they got out of toys quick. I would ask for stuff I wanted and played with it constantly. It was weird. Like when I upgraded my Han Solo figure, it took a minute to get used to the new one with the Comtech chip and the holster. But I got to experience this Tiger stuff so early, and it's just like, I have a Super Nintendo. I'll just go home and play video games.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's one of the saving graces I had was the Super Game Boy for Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so when I was at home, I would put the Super Game Boy in, and that's how I would play my Game Boy. And when I left is when I would play on the Game Boy proper. See, there's that proper again. But yeah, it was like it was just completely different because you could change like the border and like the colors changed and all that. Like some levels, especially like Donkey Kong Land, which is not Donkey Kong Country, and in my opinion, the inferior of the two, because like when you play Donkey Kong, you have to like collect things on levels. It's like, oh, if you want 100% on the game, you got to find like in Donkey Kong Country 2. You have to find the DK coin and the 2 bonus levels, or the bonus, however many bonus levels are in that particular level to 100% the game. In Donkey Kong Country Land, you had to find them to progress to the next level, and it was impossible. So if you came across like a particularly difficult level to beat and you didn't find everything in that level, you didn't get to move forward. So you'd get stuck. It was awful.
Yeah, I'd have hated that.
Yeah. That's when I discovered that if you've beaten a level previously, if you press start select, you can back out of it. So that's how
I learned that with Super Mario World.
Mm-hmm. So our last one here, which is not like the best, it's just the last one numerically. PlayStation.
Yeah.
That price difference between that and Super Nintendo, holy crap.
But that technology difference, though, dude, between that and Super Nintendo, this was the big one. This was the first big console jump in our lifetimes where you could put on a great Nintendo game and a bad Super Nintendo game, and you could convince yourself you didn't need the upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff this system could do right out of the gate, dude, you're looking at Super Nintendo and you're looking at this, and you're like, oh, man. And, when my mom got remarried in the 90s, that dude was into PlayStation. So we got PlayStation when it still had this controller. We got it at a Meyer grocery store in Florence, Kentucky. Wow. So if you're in Florence, Kentucky, you know which Meyer I'm talking about. It's the only damn one there is. But, yeah, we were early PlayStation adopters. And the only reason I got a Super Nintendo is because, long story short, he was a shitty stepdad. And he would always pull, well, you can't play PlayStation. So Christmas 98, I said, I want a Nintendo 64. And my mom goes, we have PlayStation. I said, because I don't want to deal with somebody telling me I can't play video games when I want to. And so I got that N64, and I didn't let that dude ever touch it. I was like, you can't play GoldenEye. You can't play Zelda. You can't touch my stuff. So I got 10-year-old me got my revenge.
That's right. Now, I see a game there that I've mentioned this game before, and no one ever seems to know what I'm talking about when I talk about Battle Arena Toshinden.
We had that game. Dude, thank you for bringing it up. I'd make the joke with my mom. I never give up. That's the woman Ellis. We still talk about this game to this day.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God. The guy on the screen, I think the cover's name was like Ijai or something, but then there's Duke, there's Ellis, then there was the one with the Aurora Revolution and Thunder Ring. Oh God, we played that. Those games were exciting because they were 3D fighters that the three of us at the time could play. And so it was like we were all experiencing this new technology together. So PlayStation was kind of exciting.
Oh yeah. It was also the first time I ever experienced, what it was in my brain. It's very similar to Soul Calibur, at least in like character design and kind of concept. And the guy I played with was like this old man that had Wolverine claws all the time.
Fu. His name was Fu.
Yeah. So that's who I always played as. And I remember the first time I played it, like, as you do with like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or whatever, if someone's beating you up, you try to back up to get away from them, to get out of that combo.
Yeah.
You could just back clean off the ledge and fall off.
I don't know how many times I died in that game as a ring out, but that's how I won most of my matches too.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever played it. That happened to me. I was like, this game's dumb. And then eventually grew to like it. But like the early days of PlayStation, when they were like really trying to see what they could do with the console. So you got games like Bushido Blade and like Tenchu Stealth Assassins and like all these really great fucking games that just, I guess, have gone by the wayside. But like Battle Arena Toshinden is something, I don't know who owns it now or if it's been like absorbed by another fighting game company or something, but I think they could easily just, it's a fighting game, just upscale it, redo it.
Oh, I'd pay for an HD. I would actually pay just to play this game again in whatever format it would be on a system. Like, I liked it that much.
Absolutely. It was underappreciated. I'll put it that way. Like I think once like Tekken and all that stuff showed up, it just was quickly kind of discarded and easily forgotten. But
yeah, I mean Tekken probably was a superior game, but it really Ballerina Toshinden was just awesome. I'm so glad to see it.
absolutely. And Ted Milich says NBA Jams, so, which is in the bottom right.
Those games were everywhere.
Let's see. I'm trying to read some of the chats here before they go too far away. But let's see. Oh yeah. Epic Badger says he saw the Lion King game on one of the previous ones, and thinks of all the games we're renting from Blockbuster. And that's a topic that I would love to kind of go into about like Blockbuster and being able to rent a video game. Like that was my first experiences. Like I don't know if it was like every Blockbuster or just the one that we had in my town, but like you could rent a physical console from the store.
You could do that. We rented a PlayStation before we bought one.
Yep. And that's when my parents figured that out, because I'd always be like, I don't know how many birthdays and Christmases in a row I asked for a Nintendo 64. They're like, you don't even like Nintendo. And I was like, I play Super Nintendo like every day. What do you mean? And so eventually they broke down and rented a 64 from Blockbuster with a couple of games just to see if like, kind of test it. Like, is he actually going to play this when he gets home? Is he actually going to spend like, we don't want to spend that kind of money. And they saw that I was pretty much not doing homework just so I could play like Star Fox or like F-Zero X. So,
oh my god, the hype around the N64 was so tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Nintendo knew how to market to us like it was a cult. I was so like everything Nintendo put out, I wanted to eat up. I couldn't help it. It was so cool.
Absolutely. Do you? I know I remember, but do you remember the Taco Bell tie-in marketing with Nintendo 64? Like, you'd basically get these like Nintendo style Pogs, and you could like win stuff.
I think I had those.
Yeah, I remember in the commercial, because you'd get like, it'd be like Yoshi or a Koopa or whatever, and it was like try again or whatever the hell. And in the commercial, it was a Mario token won you a Nintendo 64. And not knowing, being a kid, being dumb, not knowing that was just like, oh, you won something with this. I remember pulling or doing, I don't even know if they were Pogs, but it was basically like their version of the Monopoly game for McDonald's. But I pulled off this token and it was a Mario token, and I almost shit my pants because I won a Nintendo 64. I got it. I won, and it was free nachos.
Oh, never had nachos tasted so bad in your life.
Oh, I was so sad.
I'm sad for you like 20 years later.
It was devastating. So, which brings me back. So we have all those gone. We have all this in front of us, and I think we've reached the point in the program where we can really dive balls deep into Star Wars.
All right, let's do it.
So, speaking about like tie-ins and merchandising, one of the things the hype leading up to episode 1, you could taste it, literally, because one of the things whenever I see that card back, one of the first things I think of, Pepsi cans.
Yep, I collected them all.
Mm-hmm. And that's I didn't understand at the time that like, oh, Diet Pepsi has these characters, Mountain Dew has these characters, yada yada yada. And I think, what was it, Darth Maul was on like caffeine free or something. But he was the only can I didn't have, and I had like a ton of Mace, because I think Mace Windu was on Mountain Dew. Qui-Gon Jinn, I think, was on Pepsi. I think, but I don't remember all the. Or maybe it was Amidala was on Mountain Dew. I don't remember, but like Darth Maul was like the only can I didn't have.
My uncle works for Pepsi, so I had the insight on how everything worked.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me, I still have it at home, I have Star Wars Episode 1 store displays, Mace Windu and Queen Amidala, never unfolded. Like, not that they're valuable, but I'm saying, like, he gave me all this weird Pepsi shit. Then years later, he comes over, he's like, hey, I got something for you. He gives me the gold Yoda can, the one that was worth $1 million.
Oh, wow.
Like, they were all given those golden cans at Pepsi as a gift. And it's like whatever, you couldn't redeem it. But I do have a golden Yoda can, the one that's worth $1 million. Like, it just isn't. It's like not the $1 million one. It's like the odd promo one that was made for the Pepsi people.
Mm-hmm. I would say, speaking of promo stuff, I don't know if you can make out that pod racer there on the side of that shelf.
Oh.
So I have some promotional stuff.
Yeah, I see it up there.
Movie, but because that's pod racing.
Wizard.
That was so. I don't know. I loved that movie when it came out, just because I was a kid and didn't know any better. Like I had. Do you remember? It was into the 90s. I don't even know if they still make them now, but like the inflatable furniture was a big fad.
Yeah.
I had a Jar Jar Binks inflatable chair.
Oh no, that sounds like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, like as a kid though, I was like, oh, this is cool because I think my sister got like the Amidala one. I think my grandma got them at like Walmart or something. But she bought them for us to sit in when we came to visit her because we were always, on our bellies on the floor watching TV, and she wanted us to sit in furniture. But her couch was too far away because, back in our day, a big TV was a 17-inch screen. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I remember being just heartbroken that Darth Maul got cut in half and killed in the first one. Spoiler alert for,
a 22-year-old movie?
Yeah.
From the most popular franchise ever? Like,
right.
Yes, let's apologize for something that literally everyone on the planet has had access to for most of your life. All joking aside. Yeah. I don't like to be the Debbie Downer, but I didn't like that movie when I saw it as a kid, and it turned me off from Star Wars for a long time. I did not. So let's see. May of 99, that movie comes out. I did not like it. So I was invested in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time at that point. And it was my quest to beat that game that summer. So I spent all summer of 99 focused on Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I beat it literally the first day of school, so I count that as a win. I made my goal. But then that fall, Pokemon starts to take off, and then I get into wrestling. And once I get into wrestling in 1999, that changes a lot of stuff in terms of how I collect, what I consider cool. The Rock was kind of the litmus test for, was it cool? Is it cooler than The Rock? If it's not in that category, then I'm probably not going to like it. So with just that disappointment of episode 1 turning me off from Star Wars, I missed the Power of the Jedi toy line. I missed some really good quality stuff. And I didn't come back until the Attack of the Clones toy line. And then again, I wasn't interested in the movie enough. So I missed out on a lot of Star Wars to the point where I didn't come back fully Star Wars until 2004.
Yep. With episode 3.
It was actually the vintage collection. You remember those card back figures they were doing where they would put them on the vintage cards and then they were like new figures?
Mm-hmm.
That Han Solo to this day is still my favorite Star Wars figure, but that's what brought me back with the Star Wars collecting bug, because I liked those figures, and then the movies were coming out on DVD. Excuse me. So once we got into that, and then I was just like, I understood something. And with the help of the internet, I could be a curmudgeonly old man at 14 years old and bitch about Star Wars, the prequels, and then still have a community to talk about how great the original trilogy was. Once I realized that's how you could operate, I was back on board with Star Wars.
Absolutely, and I feel like just getting into like the Legacy collection, they were really onto something with that fella back there on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Like they were really onto something with the Legacy collection. And they just, I guess, said, fuck it. Like I get, to an extent I get it. Like you've done the Millennium Falcon, like where do you really go from there? I have the Legacy AT-AT, it's in the bedroom.
It looks beautiful. I didn't have the money at the time.
I have the Toys R Us version, so I have the Endor version, quote unquote.
Oh, it's still beautiful.
Yeah. The only difference is that it has mud on the feet instead of snow. But I think that's the only difference. At least that I can tell. Because I haven't seen it.
Isn't the speeder bike a different color, though?
Yeah.
Because it's a white speeder bike for the
right.
Empire.
Yeah, mine's brown. So, but now, if it came with a brown one, I don't know. That's just the way that I bought it. But
yeah, I don't like to make excuses for Hasbro, but after that big Millennium Falcon came out, we did have the economy kind of shit the bed.
true.
So I'm not, like I said, I'm with you that they were onto something, because you were getting like great ships, great figures. They were easy to find. Like Star Wars collecting was still fun, probably about until Disney took over. Honestly, folks, because when Disney took over, there was a price increase. They changed the figures back to 5 points of articulation. They hid certain figures under a price barrier called the Black Series or the Vintage Wave or this or that, and the distribution fell by the wayside, and it just became bad. And I know bad seems like very, you should have more detail than just the word bad, but I miss when, like, that was it for Star Wars, man. That was that window, that '08 window where it seemed like anything was possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was. I don't know. It like we mentioned, kind of weep for the kids nowadays. Like, I know people say kids aren't into toys and all that, but it's not true. Like, my nieces and nephews play with toys. I mean, not to the extent that we did, but they still play with toys. Like you've told me before, like Dion's son, you got him like Ninja Turtles one year, just a fuck ton of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I bought him the entire set. I got him all 4 turtles and the van and something else, like the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
I basically bought what I would have wanted as a kid, which was literally everything. Because if you get a toy line, it's like, yeah, you got the Ninja Turtles, cool. Where's Shredder? Where's Splinter? Where's April? Where's Casey Jones? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I basically had everything covered, including batteries. And I love it. Maybe it was living vicariously through that.
Yeah.
But there's a joy that comes with the physical toy. A game, remember, a video game is dependent upon your skill. You can get very discouraged. You can get discouraged very quickly if you're playing a game at the wrong age.
Right.
And frustrated. But if you get, an Iron Man figure, because I'm holding Iron Man again in my hands, like, Iron Man, awesome. You get Iron Man and you go off on the adventure in your mind. Like, Batman is the perfect toy. And the reason I say that is because all Batman has as a real character is just his gadgets and his additions and this and that. And as a toy, it's perfect because it's you get the gadgets and you get the Batman and you can do all of that stuff in toy form. It's the most like involved fictional character in toy form, I believe, that you can get engrossed with. Because there's a barrier for every other character, from the superhero element or the mutant element or this or that. But Batman's just a dude in a suit. Same with Iron Man to a lesser degree. They don't have as many toys, but it's just that. It almost feels like Batman is a big kid playing with toys, so you're just a little kid playing with toys.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I think there's something to be said for that too. Like, to go back to vicariously, because as you know, I've sent Trey, Pete's kid, I've sent him a couple of boxes of toys and stuff, and very recently I sent Ryan, his son Gavin, I sent him a box of he's really into the world of Nintendo figures that they've been doing.
Okay.
And so I was like I've seen this like Bowser's Castle playset at GameStop for like the last couple of years, and I'm like, I want to buy that, but like, where am I gonna put it? So it's like, okay, well, his son really likes that stuff. It gives me an excuse to get that out of my system that I want to buy it, and it gets to go to a kid that really wants it and is going to enjoy it. And like, I know that you lost your dad extremely early in your life, and so we're gonna have a kind of sentimental, kind of heavy moment here in a second, aka right now. So it makes me like I spent a large part of my life resenting and hating my dad for no reason, just because there was no reason. Like, he wanted what was best for me, and as a snotty teenager, I didn't appreciate that. It's not a phase, Dad. Let me live my life. And so I spent a large part of my life not liking and hating my dad for no reason at all. And when I hear friends of mine didn't even really get to spend time with their dad, it makes me regret that even more. And I'm ashamed that it happened, but I'm not ashamed to admit that it happened. Me and my dad get along swimmingly now. Like we're golden now. But like when I see someone like Ryan, who's really he's a great dad, you know, and his son's a good kid and all that. So I want to try and encourage sons to spend time with their dads as much as possible. And since they both collect toys, that's something they can bond over. And I'm trying to foster and encourage that, and maybe, you know, live vicariously a little bit, so I can be like, and try to, I don't know, I guess atone for the time I lacked with my dad. You know, so I think there's something to be said about like when you buy a set of toys for a kid, like you're buying it like to try and live vicariously or relive something through them that you didn't get to experience.
Oh, you are preaching to the choir on this one, dude. Like, I have thought, my wallet's dreading me having a kid, because it's not like if I'm like that with me, I know I'm going to go overboard with damn toys. Like, that's something I'm looking forward to. Like, when they reach the toy age, because it's like, well, it's an excuse. Like, oh, they like, let's just use Marvel superheroes. Oh, cool. Well, they're into Spider-Man. Well, Dad has his own Spider-Man, but you need yours, and then you need this and that, and I'm buying it again, and it's just the same thing, and it's weird. Like, they say when you get older, it's better to give than receive. It's like, yeah, because it's like, I can buy a Spider-Man figure for myself, put it on a shelf, it's fun, but I get more enjoyment watching, like, Dion's kid get so excited over the Ninja Turtles, or the following year I bought him the Daily Bugle. They made a new Daily Bugle playset, man, and I thought, I don't want it. I don't collect this scale of Spider-Man, but D2 loves this shit, and he's going to go nuts for it. He did. So, I echo that sentiment. And folks, I'm not a parent yet. I'm not going to tell you better than people that are, but there's something to be said about imagination over digital entertainment. I love games. 100%. I could talk about games all day long, but damn it, there's something that is missing when you're just following the narrative of a story. You know, take your action figures out, go outside, make a story, put them on a mission. You know, what's Batman doing today? Where are the X-Men going? They're going to Krakoa. They're going here. They're going there. Like, it gives you incentive to learn how to play with toys, and it gives you an incentive to, you know, write your own stories. It's exciting.
It is, and that's for those that may have missed it. I did a whole video on Imagination for Iconicon this year, talking about play sets and how imagination was like through all the toys and everything else that we have. Like, yeah, Power Rangers. I have a Toxic Crusader figure here.
Yeah.
That might be Swamp Thing, actually.
That's Swamp Thing.
Yeah, which I should have put him next to there, but I like planning. So we have these. They have their IPs. They have their representatives. Like, I didn't know this guy was from Swamp Thing. I got him at a yard sale, just like that. With looks like a hamster bit him on top of his head, but like he was just a random ghoul that got stuff spilled on him, and you know, imagination was so important that, yeah, that's Leon. Yeah, that's the Terminator. Please don't fall over and embarrass me in front of all these people. Yeah, we have Terminator, we have Predator, but it's like, is that the Terminator? And in my head, he could be whatever he wants to be, whatever I want him to be. And so when it came to things like play sets or like the Daily Bugle playset that I talk about in that video, you had to use your imagination.
Oh, like, yeah.
So it's like, and we talked about like the Godzilla toys being all weird, different scales and all that, but all having the same branding on them. So it was like, imagination was so imperative, and it helps with creative problem solving, and it also helps with creative problem solving. That's all I got right now. So I don't know. It's just having something tangible in your hands versus a controller, because it's like, yeah, like I play video games, we all do. Like I have a lot of fun playing them, you know, but you're limited to the confines of that world.
Yep.
Like if there's no input to make your character do a cartwheel naked, they're not going to do it, you know.
And the game ends, man. Like there's a point in time where it's like, hey, I beat The Legend of Zelda 15 times. It's awesome. It's the best game I've ever played. But like, hey, I'm going to play with The Rock. Holy shit, I can have him play. He can fight Triple H. Oh, I didn't like how WrestleMania turned out. I can rebook WrestleMania with my action figure. Or, oh, this, or they can fight. Like, dude, limitations of games back then. You couldn't do as much as they could do on TV, but your toys could. So, even that. Another element of reality to it.
Exactly, and it was like Jurassic Park even. Like so you said you didn't see the movie, you didn't collect the toys. The toy line was so drastically different from the show from the movie, because the toy line was all built on like capturing dinosaurs, and they all had like these weird kind of like muzzles and chains and stuff that came on them, and like the Jeep had like a net for the maybe it was, I think that showed up in the Lost World, but I'm pretty sure it was from the first wave of toys. So it's like you get the toys and you watch the movie and they're totally unrelated almost. Only in name are they related. So, you know, it opens up a whole world of possibilities, and I mean, dinosaurs are dinosaurs. You can do whatever you want with them. You put them wherever you want. But yeah, and like you mentioned Batman, there's so many. There's like Arctic Mission Batman. There's, Tech Shield Batman.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's like he's kind of like the everyman of action figures, I guess. So it's like, oh, I want a scuba Batman. They make a scuba Batman.
You know what the one problem with Batman toys is?
There's too many.
Yeah, because Batman and Iron Man, while they do have different armors and stuff, a lot of the times that you get a toy that does all these different things, like it would just be like the regular Batman pulling it out of his belt. Mm-hmm. And so you can't sell 50 gray Batman figures. I get you on all the different colored ones, but that always just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, it really prohibited me from wanting more. Like, for example, I loved Batman the Animated Series the entire run, but I only wanted the one that looked like the cartoon. Same with Batman from the movie. There was only one, two with Michael Keaton for that first Kenner wave. There was Crime Attack Batman, and then there was another Batman where his arms would spread out. I'm sure it used the Silverhawks technology or whatever that shit is. Like, he just you tap his arms and his arms go up and he holds up his cape. Like, there were only two versions that wore the movie suits. It was just a weird time. It's like, and if you couldn't get that one in the beginning, it just never came back out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's same thing happened with like Ninja Turtles. Like, if you didn't get that kind of first set from like, was it 87 or something like that, then you're going to be stuck with like Pizza Launching Leo and things like that. Like, luckily my brother had them, but if it weren't for that, then I would have been stuck with like baseball outfielder Raphael. Like, that's kind of the versions I got stuck with a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved them. Some of my favorite ones, which now evidently are worth money, were the horror movie versions. Like, I think it was like Dracula Donatello and like Mummy Raphael or something. I don't remember who was who, but
I know those.
Yeah, so those were some of my favorites. And even though like that's another one of those where it's like, oh, these are cool, and then you get them home, you're like, I don't know how to play with this, because it's like you only have the one, or you have like the two turtles and no versions of the bad guys or something. But like,
isn't that what killed He-Man? Like, they say in one of those documentaries, people couldn't find He-Man and Skeletor anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember which documentary it was. I've seen the one where they mentioned that it was they needed more He-Man and more Skeletor, and when the stores asked for it, Mattel misunderstood and thought they just meant more figures, so they made more characters, and then you couldn't find regular He-Man, regular Skeletor, which leads me to my theory, which I don't have. I have the Origins version. So this is the Origins version of Battle Armor Skeletor. And he's got like the rolling armor gimmick and all that. And a lot of people love the Battle Armor versions. And I think the reason being is that this is the version that they found, because they didn't have a Skeletor or have a He-Man until they got the Battle Armor version.
Oh.
So that's my theory anyway. I have no evidence to support that or anything. It's just a theory that I have because, like my favorite Wolverine, who's just, I pulled him out to put him on the table and I left him over there, is the Albert version of Wolverine. From the Toy Biz, I think he's like a Reaver version of Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
He has like, his whole gimmick is he's got two sets of arms. He's got like regular looking arms and two like metal arms with claws. You squeeze his legs and the arms pop off. Uh-huh. That was one of my favorite versions because that was the version of Wolverine that I had. I mean, I had the brown suit Wolverine where you could wear his mask as a ring.
Yep, that's the one I had.
But if memory serves, didn't he come with like a sword or a gun or something?
He came with a katana, and God, he was ugly looking.
Yeah, but it's like I had him, But then once we got into the later X-Men lines, later waves where the articulation got better, the sculpts got better, he didn't fit in anymore. So
I
Alfred
hated
was
when
the one I
that
played
happened.
with the most. Yeah. It's like when the textures, I guess for lack of a better word, just don't mesh anymore. So kind of like putting a vintage figure in with Power of the Force 2. It just, you can only suspend your disbelief so far. Or if you want to like, oh, I want my Power Ranger to fight a G.I. Joe. It's like, well, I mean, they can.
Power Rangers could win instantly.
Yeah, you can, but you're going to be, working with scale here. So that was, I know you've mentioned to me before that you weren't really into G.I. Joe, and that's like my go-to toy line all the time. I love G.I. Joe.
See, G.I. Joe is a dangerous toy line for me, though, because I could get into it easily at this point in my life because I like the designs. I mean, I know you don't love Super 7, but their Cobra Commander, I was like, ugh. I'm a fan of the designs, but I'm also a fan of a toy line that has massive play appeal. Like the idea of getting 10 Joes, a couple Jeeps, and a plane. It excites me as I'm older. Because as a kid, I just wanted like what I saw on TV. But now I like the scope, the breadth of the entire wave. I think, like I said, I'll never start getting into it because that's the type of shit I'm like, I'm going to get it all and then go bankrupt.
Yeah, which Joe prices over the last year have like quadrupled. So,
is there a reason why, or is it just age, or?
I blame Classified on it. The Classified series by Hasbro. That's what I blame because I think it did two things. It awakened, whatever the past tense is. It caused a resurgence in people who were like, who want to get into toy collecting. They, Classified. Oh, I love G.I. Joe as a kid. Now they go backwards. Or there's people who are just like, oh my God, this sucks. I'm going back. So I think it just drove people backwards, positive or negative. But that's my guess. That and who did I talk to? I think I was on Grindhead Jim's channel when I talked about this. We talked about how 2020 and the pandemic and all that, like there's been a resurgence of toy collectors. Like a lot of people are getting into toy collecting over the last year. And I think it's just too much free time. And that's just people kind of went back. And then I never saw the show, but my friend Tony Roberts has talked about it, called Toy Hunter, which is basically like American Pickers for toy collecting.
Oh, I knew that show.
Yeah, and it gave people this whole, there's money in vintage toys. So now they think that like this Fisto, I've shown him already. He's very worse for wear. Like his hair is supposed to be like this auburn, like red color, and it's faded. The band is breaking. The punch gimmick doesn't work. I wouldn't sell him because he's my childhood one. But you'll find people that have like these that are even in worse shape. They're like, yeah, $50 because it's old. That means it's worth money.
That's when it's dead to me. Like I thought we had come out of that era because everyone thought in the early 2000s that because of eBay, they were sitting on a gold mine. So everything vintage went up in price. And then once everyone realized only the shit the shit that's valuable is rare and this and that, then people kind of calm down. But these shows make everyone think they're an expert. When everyone thinks they're an expert, they're going to go to the highest part of the value guide and they're going to go, well, see, it goes for $99. I'm like, yo, that's just mint on card for $99. This is loose as shit. $5. Like, they don't understand that part.
Well, that and the eBay has kind of made things worse a little bit because there's a lot of people who don't know how to use it. And so they'll see, like, I don't know, I'll just grab a different figure at random. Here you go. This piece of shit. So I could put him on eBay for $800. Doesn't mean he's worth $800, but people aren't looking at sold listings. They're just looking at current listings. So they're like, oh, $800 action figure. And then all of a sudden that becomes the going rate for it. So
you should go put that online for $800 and spike the market.
I should. I'll see what happens. But then you compound that with what we call normies or muggles or whatever you want to call them, who are new to toy collecting and think, oh, okay. And then they buy it and that sets that baseline. So it's kind of
I see that with a lot of those Mezco figures.
Oh, God, tell me about it. Like nothing against Mezco. I know we've talked about it a little bit that you're not the hugest fan of them. I'm I'm I dabble in Mezco. Like I only get the figures I really want. And I missed out on Nosferatu, and he's like $180 now, and I think he was like an $80 figure when he was announced or something like that. And like some of them go up way up in value, some of them don't. Anything that's labeled Rumble Society, just forget about it. They sell out instantly, and then people are flipping them for double, triple price. So
I don't see the appeal of their own custom toys. They're nice looking. I don't buy unlicensed toys. And that sounds stupid and whatever, but my entire collection is basically physical embodiments of things I like from other forms of media.
mm-hmm. I like unlicensed stuff. Trying to look for a good example, but I don't see anything within arm's reach. Nope. Okay, because it allows my imagination to kind of wander and do things. But even like now, you're hard pressed to find anything that's like an original IP. The only thing in recent memory that I can think of, I mean, Action Force is. I would call it an original IP because it's Bobby Vala's version of Action Force. It has the name. There's winks and nods and homages to other things, but beyond that is Final Faction, which is a Dollar Tree exclusive toy line. Yeah, it's 5 POA. Do I have any near? Yeah, I can grab one of these. And I made a mess. Okay. Well, if you're a toy collector, you're familiar with that sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, Final Faction, it's like these little 5 POA like alien looking things, and you know they're a little fun. Like this is the Alpha Team 1 arc, so it's like a little robot kind of thing. But there's like a whole wave of them. There's like weapon packs, accessory packs. Like you can buy, like I bought the whole wave. So you have like 5 good guys and 3 aliens, and all the aliens are army builders. I bought all the good guys, all the weapons packs, and like 2 or 3 of each alien, and I was still under $25.
Jeez.
So, and you can find them. They're on the pegs. Like I didn't even have to like go back to Dollar Tree. I just went the one time on a whim. They had them all, and I bought them all. So. But I think there's a YouTube channel that has like episodes as a tie-in. Like there's a little QR code you can scan on it or something.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they're fun. I mean, they're $1. So you buy them, you break it, it's $1. Like not even the end of the world. Other than the robot, they all come with like their own weapons and stuff like that. So you don't even have to get the weapons packs. But
it's still pretty cool though.
Yeah, I think it's a fun little toy line. So, and it's easy to collect. So, and I think they have like vehicles coming out next year. Then there's like talks of a play set, all that kind of stuff. So,
where do you go for toy news?
So toy news mostly Infinity Equation is where I go. I used to follow like all these different people, and then I noticed just I won't say I'll talk to you offline about kind of what I noticed about certain people. But there were certain places where I would go for toy news, and then found out that I was being sold on it. I wasn't just being told about it. And Infinity Equation is really good about like, here's all the toy news, make your own decision. And so I go there, or if I'm looking for something really specific, I'll join a Facebook group just for the news, like the Motu Origins. I'm part of a Facebook group, and that's where I go for all those announcements. But by and large, like I usually wake up and I'll have like 8 or 9 messages on Facebook like, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? I'll be like, I see it now. So
I get a lot of stuff from you. I go to the Toy Arc website, and then a lot of Facebook groups, man. I joined Facebook groups for toy lines I'm not even interested in because I just like to know what's going on in the toy industry, what's popular, when pre-orders go up. I understand the economics of toy collecting to a point where I could do it as another form of income. I just don't like making a profit off toys, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
I had to do it one time in my life right after college. I didn't have a job and I needed money. So my Toys R Us got all the shipments of the Dragon Daggers from the Legacy Collection. Like, the entire region didn't get them, just mine.
Wow.
So I could put them up, and I got them early, too. We're talking, this is 2014, before June. So I graduated April. Long story short, I'm making a double per. I made like $1,400 profit off of these Dragon Daggers, and I wasn't even. I think I charged not too terribly much more.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah. I the only legacy, or is it legacy? Yeah, the only one I have is the Saba sword, and I got that at GameStop, and they had a I was get to know your GameStop people, like whatever store you go to, like maybe not Target or something like a GameStop where they have a horse in the race where it's like they need sales because it's, you know, based on region, they compete, all that kind of shit. Like, get to know the people there because they will hook you up and let you know about things. Like the GameStop I was going to at the time, I went in probably once, twice a week because it was on the way home from work, and I got to know the store manager by name, and so he would like let me know, like anytime I walked in, he'd have it on the counter, hand it to me. He had a printout of all the pre-orders that were put up and all that kind of stuff. Like, here's all the stuff we have coming up for pre-order, and this is, I think that's standard now. I think it's standard practice for him to have that printout, but at the time it wasn't. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get the Saba sword. I think I'm gonna get it. And he was like, I'll hold it back here. I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. He's like, come back tomorrow. I can't tell you why. I'll hold it for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I came back the next day and they had some huge blowout sale on all their like prop replicas where it was like, it was all like $20. So I got the Saba sword for $20.
Okay, so this wasn't too terribly long ago. Like, you were listening to the channel, right?
Yeah, this is
2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the same sale. I took advantage of it. I bought my friend Veronica the Fallout set, like the grenades and like binoculars. Dude, they had SH Figure Arts Power Rangers for $20. I bought Tommy with the 25th anniversary Tommy head. It was originally an $80 toy.
Yep. Yeah, I missed out on all those. They didn't have them when I was there, but I got the Saba sword. So, it helps to be nice to people.
Agreed.
So don't be that guy that goes into a store and gets all butthurt that they don't have what you're looking for, because they're probably not going to have it anyway. And they don't have control over it.
Nope.
But,
and if you're nice, they might even look in the back for you.
And having worked retail before, if someone's a dick to me when I was working there, I would just go back and stand there for about 10 minutes and walk out like, yeah, we don't have it. But if you were nice to me and you're like, hey, could you please look in the back for me? Yeah. And I would go look. But if you're just being rude about it, like demanding that I should somehow just magically appear with it, then I'm not going to go look for it, because they make minimum wage there. They're not making enough money to really and if you're going to be mean about it, someone else will come along later that'll be nice about it. So,
and they'll get it.
Yep. Because they're humans. Yeah, they work there, but that whole modicum or adage, whatever you want to call it, of the customer always being right, no, not by a long shot.
I take the customer is always right as a different meaning if you have a product that fails and means the customer was right, they didn't like it. That's what I take from the customer is always right, meaning they'll dictate what's successful or not
right.
They can come in with a sense of entitlement and be a dick.
Exactly. So, like, just a quick memory, because I'm having PTSD flashbacks of retail. Not to downplay PTSD, it's a joke, but like I worked many holidays in retail, and I have memories of Christmas Eve, like the one, because Christmas was the only day of the year that store ever actually closed. But Christmas Eve, we would close at, I think, 11 p.m. or 8 p.m. I don't remember 10 p.m. And people would come in at like 8:30, 9 o'clock trying to buy a last-minute Christmas gift. They're like, what do you mean you don't have this thing? It's like, you've had literally all year to come buy this. Like, you waited till the night before Christmas to come buy it. Like, I get it. Money situations are different for everybody. But it's like, don't come in the day before you need something, swinging your dick around thinking you're going to get it. Because if we don't have it, we can't make it magically appear.
Nope.
So let's see. So we talked about outdoor toys, talked about indoor toys. We flipped through a Toys R Us catalog, which just please bring back Toys R Us.
I know.
And maybe even if it's not Toys R Us, just something similar, because we need a designated outlet for toys. Because clearly Walmart, Target gets all, and we're not equipped to handle it.
Nope.
Walk us through. So I think you told the story earlier. I'm not sure. I know this makes me a bad host. Did you tell the Millennium Falcon story already?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just making sure, because I remembered you brought it up, but we've covered a lot of ground, so I'm trying to work backwards.
Yeah. I don't remember half the stuff we've talked about.
So, walk us through a playtime scenario. Like, let's say you told us the Power Ranger story. So, what was your typical Power Ranger experience when you played? Was it like what would you have done like if you only had the Power Rangers and no bad guys?
Which is how I grew up, because I didn't have any of the bad guys. I kind of would. So Power Rangers was weird. The more I think about it, I would watch the show like with the figures around and watch the show and get into it. And then also when I would go outside, I'd try to be like them. So I played with the toys all the time. I really don't remember, like, I think I just played with them while I watched the show, if that makes sense. Because my mom would tape the episodes. And that's probably why I got into that show the way I did, because she would tape it to cut out the commercials, and then I would just have these Power Ranger tapes that I just watched nonstop and play with the toys and morph the Zords. So I think that's how I played with Power Rangers, is I just watched the show and did what was on screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I've noticed a similar play pattern with my nephew. He likes Jurassic Park and the dinosaurs, and he would sit in front of the TV with the dinosaurs and just hold them. And then when the dinosaurs showed up, he'd start playing with the dinosaurs. And when the dinosaurs went away, he'd stop playing with them and kind of watch the movie. But so you mentioned just now that you didn't have any bad guys. Were you also one of those kids that just didn't want bad guys?
Well, let me rephrase. I misspoke. I had one bad guy, Power Ranger-wise. I had Lord Zed, the big 8-inch one.
Mm-hmm.
So I had him later at a later date. But re-ask the question, sorry again, after the Lord Zed part.
So, like, for a part of my life, for kind of a big part of my life, I remember having toys and not having bad guys.
Yep.
Because I didn't want bad guys.
Yeah, that was me too.
So, but now I find as an adult, I'm more interested in the bad guys. Like, I like Cobra more than G.I. Joe. I like, the Decepticons more than the Autobots.
See, what's happened with me is I haven't become more interested in the villains. I've become more interested in just collecting everything. So, for example, if I was a kid and I bought Ghostbusters figures, I'd only get the Ghostbusters. But as an adult, when the Hasbro line came out, I picked up everything, including Louis Tully. So, now with villains too, like there's that all-villain wave that came out from Hasbro. I intended to get more of the figures, but due to shipping and moving and stuff, shit changed. But I'm at a point where if I like X-Men, I just want to get the core X-Men team and then everybody they could fight, if that makes sense. So, like, I bought Arcade and Lady Deathstrike, and I'll get every X-Men. I'll just keep collecting the villains because they go with the X-Men. It's kind of got to be like I got that family 3-pack of Magneto, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, mainly for Magneto, because Magneto's an awesome villain. But it's all like it's part of the set is how I want to treat it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Like as a collector now, it's flushing out everything. It's like, well, if I have this one, like if I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if I have a Luigi, I need a Mario, and if I have them, well, I got to get a Bowser.
Exactly.
So that's like, because I had villains as a kid, like the Man Spider, and I guess Terminator. Technically, you could call him a villain depending on the movie.
True.
So it's like I had villains, and I had toys like some like the vintage Hordak. I had him. He's a Motu character. I had him as a kid. Didn't know he was a villain. I mean, you look at him and you're like, yeah, that's a bad guy. How could you not tell? But like it was probably, I don't know, I had to have been like 8, I think, when I finally started asking for bad guys because I needed my good guys to fight somebody. And I was like, oh, I realized I was like, Batman can't fight Robin. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, did you have that Batman Returns Robin?
I think I did.
The one that was clearly based off Damon Wayans, and then they just went and added a little curl or whatever of hair. He's clearly a black guy.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
I had Jack Nicholson Joker as a kid, and so Batman would fight the Joker, and I don't think I would ever watch the movie and play with the toys because the Joker died. So it's like, what do you do after the Joker dies? Nothing. So you just kind of take him. You don't reenact that stuff.
Right. That's I found characters that died were hard to play with. So.
You know, that was George Lucas's mantra with Han Solo, and it really worked, because if Han Solo died in Return of the Jedi, I wouldn't have wanted to buy anything.
Well, he dies because it's like, you know, because we talked about imagination and all that, and these are things that you kind of develop over time, but as a kid, you're kind of limited to that world. Like, whatever happens in that world is how you play, kind of. It's like, oh, you know, Obi-Wan dies on the Death Star. Well, you know, he's not going to be talking to Yoda when Luke goes to Dagobah. I mean, he does, but that's not the point. But it's like, well, you have old man Obi-Wan. Darth Vader has to kill Obi-Wan. That's how the story goes. So,
Obi-Wan was a weird figure for me. I had, excuse me, he was the one Star Wars figure that I got, and then I never upgraded him. Like, I upgraded Darth Vader and Leia and Han and got all the costumes, but like, as they made newer Obi-Wans with like the hood up or the two-handed lightsaber or this or that, and just because he died in the movie, I was like, I have Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that's enough. He's gonna die, so why do I care?
That's my favorite Obi-Wan is actually within arm's reach. Please don't knock everything over. That would be embarrassing to happen 3 times on the stream. My favorite Obi-Wan.
Oh, you got one of those?
Yep. So on Target's app for shipping, you can actually slide it to be notified when it comes back in stock.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that.
Yep. So, but because you have to on the app, there's like pickup, delivery, and shipping or something like that. It's only on the shipping option to be notified when it's back in stock. So I'll do that in like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever. Usually I'll get a notification like, this is back in stock. So I was able to get Obi-Wan and Anakin that way. So
I was lucky to get the Marvel Legends vintage carded Gambit and Rogue from Target.com.
Yep. I only got Gambit. I don't even know why I bought him. So I was okay with the other one. I think it was Caliban Wave that he came with. That he was a part of. So I got him. I got that one, but now I have them both for some reason. Yeah,
Laser Pants sent me Rogue, but I didn't want to open that Rogue, so I figure I'll get this Rogue and leave the other one in the package.
Yeah, smart. So, alrighty. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else because I have like one final game that I like to play. But before I ask that last question, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to talk about?
In terms of toys, no. Like childhood stuff. I didn't get into any wrestling. Let's save that for another time. Not that it's that important. It's just another version of toy collecting, and it talks more about some of my tastes developed through wrestling figures. What I mean is like a certain attention to detail and like appreciation of scanned technology and interest in learning how toys are made, because wrestling, those weird early movie or Toy Biz figures like from X-Men and Spider-Man, and then some of those McFarlane figures like the movie Maniac waves and stuff, they always fascinated me because I wanted to know how realistic toys were made, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that's a stream I'd love to have with you, other collectors, one-on-one. It's all up to you, man. But other than that, like, I have been thinking about this stream all day, and it delivered on every front. Like, I'm riding high thinking about some of my favorite toys, and I literally just brought, a good chunk of my office out here as I keep, turning on the camera and saying, hey, look at this stuff. Or, like, I got, bags of Marvel Legends figures and, Ghostbusters and shit just chilling out here. So I'm just, as happy as can be.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. Like it's a very feel good stream, and we just get to talk about toys and childhood memories, and because it's I wouldn't say most videos, but there's not a whole lot of videos that kind of lend themselves to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, if there's a stream, it's like, what are we got to talk about? I don't know, the box office on this, or we have to talk about this and now. Like it's just a chance to just talk and share memories and just see how similar backgrounds or sometimes completely different interests that toy collectors have, but we're all part of this community. So
I love it. It's so fun to meet people who you don't even are expecting to be toy collectors. Like Anna, that Star Wars girl, she was here the other day and going through my Marvel Legends bin. She's like, "Oh, you got the one that turns from Gwen Stacy to Mary Jane and stuff." So like, she's clearly up on these things, and I never even realized it to this degree. So, toys. You never know who's a toy collector out there.
right. It's surprising. Like sometimes you'll see even like celebrities. There was someone. It was in the Infinity Equation group. Someone shared, or no, it was the Motu group. There was some wrestler or some athlete was doing some kind of interview from their house, and behind them was a shelf full of Motu figures.
Ooh.
So, and I know the wrestling community or the wrestlers in that, like the actual wrestlers, are like super into Motu, evidently. So that's how the Motu WWE line came about.
Which is a great crossover. Mattel, I don't know if I'll call them they're not my favorite manufacturer of toys, but they never disappoint me to the point where I get mad. Like the few figures I buy from them, wrestling wise, I'm like, oh, these are solid. And then I just don't buy other Mattel stuff. So
yeah. So that leads us to our final question from the night. Make sure we don't have any burning questions from the chat. I do want to thank everyone for stopping by. Ted Millich, Epic Badger. We got Scott Cummins. We got all sorts of people. Greg Fenstead, World Meta Cardboard, Bjorn Morgensen, Connor Fuller, especially Laser Pants. Holy crap, dude. Like, I know he's doing the Infinity Equation right now. Like, that show has started. And I will be catching on the playback. If you, in the Infinity Equation, guys, if you're listening to this on the playback, I do apologize. But, time gets away from us sometimes. And it's been a great conversation. So, no hard feelings, and I will be in the chat as soon as this is done, I promise. But I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 4 and 13.
7.
7. And pick a time of year.
Summer.
You are 7 years old, and it is summertime. Walk us through a day in the life of 7-year-old Jeff Hicks during the summertime.
Oh, well, I'm 5 years old. You said 7, right?
7, yep.
Okay, so it's 1995. That's where I made the mistake. Jeff has just come off of Power Rangers being the greatest thing ever. Still like it, still play with the toys. The Mortal Kombat movie has my attention, and Toy Story is brand new, and I fall in love with Buzz Lightyear. So that is what's going on at that period. It's a weird transition because I never got out of toys or collecting or this and that, but it was like the next... Power Rangers was the first toy line that I stepped out of, if that makes sense. Like, that was it. That was that age where I'm like, I'm out of this. Let's move on to something else. And so it's one of those weird eras. And it wouldn't be until into 96 that, Star Wars becomes my thing. And then only briefly does it not become my thing. But that's where I am. And I'm playing Super Nintendo quite a bit. Probably, what came out? Oh, I didn't really get any games in 95. I was probably playing the Power Rangers movie game or Mortal Kombat 3 or something like that.
Hell yeah. So that's kind of woke up, had your breakfast, and then just carried on.
Well, yeah, because I would have been, in the first grade, and, my mom was a cool mom where it's like, if it's summer or the weekends and you don't have homework, like, you could stay up and do whatever you want. So I probably would stay up and watch TV or play video games and then, get up whenever and hang out. Probably spent a lot of time with my grandma, too.
Hell yeah. Grandmas are the best.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we are at the 3.5 hour mark. So, we're going to close up shop here before we take off. Again, thank you everyone who's in the chat, who stopped by, who watched, who hung out, who stayed, all that kind of stuff. Once more, for the people at home listening, if they somehow don't know who you are, which is a sin, let them know where they can find you, what you've got going on.
Folks, I am Jeff Hicks of World Class Bullshitters. You can find me on YouTube. Just Google World Class Bullshitters and you'll find everywhere that we are. I personally am a comic book artist, so I just had a second campaign close, a very successful one for my book Stealing Solo. So if you're into comics, and most people seem to be that collect, check us out. I'll be doing a run coming up called Woke Busters. And because I'm a toy collector, I like to do all sorts of toy-related things. So as Sal knows, the cover for my first book is a toy card, a vintage-style Star Wars card. And I have Woke Busters stuff planned to do toy-style things, too. I love toys. One day I want to be... My goal in life has always been be relevant enough to have a toy based on you. So there you go. That's what I'm always shooting for. And if not, just make something that gets a toy, and that's just as good.
Hell yeah. Which the production on the Jeff Hicks action figure will begin sometime this year.
All joking aside, that'll be something I put on a shelf and I'll put it in a little glass thing because I'll never I have a few toys I bring with me. I don't even have a name for it. I was going to try to come up with something funny. But there's a certain version of The Rock I bring and Batman and something else. Not even for comfort, but it's down to the wire house fire things. I'm like, fuck it, I'll bring it with me. So when I was moving out here for the first time and I was going through my office kind of at the last minute, I'm just like, I'll take this, this, and this. So.
Hell yeah. Well, thank everyone for stopping by. I'm Sal. And we will see you in the next video.